Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 81 Fighting. Shangmei Street. Duan Zhenyu's expression changed slightly after hearing Lu Zehai's words. Jiang Heng went alone to capture the leader of the Serpent Fang gang. The difference in strength between a level 3 late stage and a level 3 peak stage is enormous. This was evident from the confrontation between Peng Kuiyan and Pan Rufeng just now. To be considered a level 3 peak stage martial artist, in addition to having a physical body at level 3.90 or higher, the development progress of skeletal potential must also be above 50%, which means mastering at least one superior quality professional level martial art to the great accomplishment stage. Even two ordinary level 3 late stage martial artists may not be a match for a level 3 peak stage martial artist. Judging from Jiang Heng's killing of Ding Yan and Mo Sanyang, two level 3 early middle stage martial artists, a few days ago, his strength is estimated to be among the best of level 3 late stage, but not yet at the level 3 peak stage. Going alone to hunt down Peng Kuiyan at this moment would be tantamount to courting death, wouldn't it? Duan Zhenyu immediately picked up his phone and dialed Jiang Heng's number. After a period of anxious waiting, the phone finally connected, and Jiang Heng's voice sounded from the other end. "Hello, Captain Duan." Duan Zhenyu immediately breathed a sigh of relief, glad that it was still in time, and said, "Xiao Zhang, where are you now? It's too dangerous for you to go alone to capture Peng Kuiyan. Don't rush, let's discuss it carefully." The sound of rapid rushing wind came from the other end of the phone. Jiang Heng said, "No need for so much trouble, I'm about to find him." He paused here, and then added, No, I've already found him. Talk to you later." After speaking, he hung up the phone and then turned it off. Duan Zhenyu looked at the disconnected phone in his hand in a daze, his face turning somewhat dark. "No, you. A dilapidated house in the northern part of Yukon district. Peng Kuiyan was not tall, only a little over 1.8 meters. His neck was thick, and the muscle lines, like steel wires, stretched from his jaw all the way to his entire body, like an iron man woven from steel. A blue-gray denim jacket with a wild style was worn on his upper body, and the cuff of his right arm had already been torn off, revealing a snake-shaped tattoo stretching from his chest to his right wrist, with the snake fangs opening a bloody mouth, facing the palm of his hand. After Peng Kuiyan broke through the defense line of Shangmei Street, he pretended to run in the opposite direction to the southwest of Yukon district. In fact, he circled around and changed direction again, coming to the northern part of Yukon district and flipping into this uninhabited dilapidated courtyard. Should be able to stay for a while. Peng Kuiyan took out a metal communicator with a screen from his pocket and entered a string of phone numbers. After waiting for a few seconds, the communicator connected. A vacant room appeared on the screen, and in the center of the room was a large metal chair. Shifo Peng Long was wearing a loose gray martial arts uniform, and his tall and sturdy body was sitting on the chair. As soon as the video connected, Peng Long on the other side slowly spoke, his slightly hoarse voice coming from the communicator. "I have already told you the murderer who killed your brother, why are you still contacting me?" His body leaned back on the metal chair. Compared to a few days ago, Peng Long's face was already more tired, and there were more bloodshot eyes. A few days ago, Lin Zhenan asked him to find an opportunity to kill several high-level officials of the Yukon District Martial Arts Bureau before returning. Peng Long knew that if he failed to complete this task, there would probably be no place for him in Nanjiang City. But now the Hongmen in Yukon District has already disintegrated. Even if he really killed someone, it would probably be difficult to escape. So after thinking for a long time, he thought of a method. The smugglers from the Thai Myanmar administrative region who were sheltered by Lu Yuheng, Lin Lang and Peng Xiaochuan of the Serpent Fang gang, were exactly who he sent to Lu Yuheng. Peng Long had already learned that the leader of the Serpent Fang gang, Peng Kuiyan, was a powerful level 3 martial artist. And he had always been extremely protective of his subordinates. A few years ago, someone assassinated his gang members, and Peng Kuiyan personally traveled 500 miles and killed the person's entire family. At this time, Peng Xiaochuan and Lin Lang of the Serpent Fang gang had already died at the hands of Jiang Heng, which could be used by him. So 3 days ago, Peng Long contacted Peng Kuiyan and sent him the evidence that his brother Peng Xiaochuan was killed by Jiang Heng. Intending to use a knife to kill, let Peng Kuiyan kill Jiang Heng for him. In this way, he could be considered to have completed the task given to him by Lin Zhenan, and also ensure his own safety. Sure enough, after Peng Kuiyan learned the news, he immediately set off to Nanjiang City. It's just that Peng Long didn't expect that Peng Kuiyan would cause such a big commotion on the border of Nanjiang City as soon as he came. Peng Kuiyan grinned, and the muscles on his face, like steel wires, twisted together. I just came to Nanjing City, I'm not familiar with the place, and I can't find where that Jiang Heng is. You are the local snake here, you arrange a place for me to live first. Peng Long frowned. You just came and caused such a big commotion, how can I arrange it for you? With your ability, since you have already entered Nanjing City, you should be able to find your own way out. Peng Kuiyan said impatiently. It's too troublesome, I want to find a chance to kill that martial arts bureau branch captain now, you help me find an opportunity. Peng Long on the other side was silent for a while, and finally said slowly. Wait 2 more days, wait until the limelight of your commotion has passed before saying anything. I have already sent you the photo and detailed information of that martial arts bureau branch captain, you recognize it yourself first. After speaking, Peng Long hung up the communication. Looking at the darkened screen, Peng Kuiyan's face suddenly became gloomy, and a vast killing intent surged in the small courtyard. The purpose of his coming to Nanjing City, in addition to killing the martial arts bureau captain Jiang Heng, was to kill another person. That is Peng Long. With the vast power of Hongmen in Nanjing City, it would be too simple to hide 2 people. Why was it such a coincidence that Peng Xiaochuan and Lin Lang would encounter this Jiang Heng and die at his hands? Obviously, Hongmen was the one who did it, and Peng Long must also be the culprit. Peng Kuiyan stuck out his tongue and licked his teeth, his eyes fierce and sinister. Wait, Peng Long, I'll let you live for 2 more days, wait until I kill that martial arts bureau captain, then, you will also die. He opened the communicator again and began to check the information sent by Peng Long. The latest novels are first published at 6th-9th book bar. What came into view was a very young photo, looking no more than 18 or 19 years old. This person is the murderer who killed my brother. Creak. The dilapidated gate of the courtyard was pushed open. Jiang Heng was holding his phone in his left hand, talking to Duan Zhenyu, and when he looked up, he noticed Peng Kuiyan standing in the center of the courtyard. He said something to Duan Zhenyu, then hung up the phone, and his gaze noticed the screen of the communicator in Peng Kuiyan's hand. Are you looking for me? The atmosphere in the courtyard fell into a brief silence. The situation at this time was somewhat beyond Peng Kuiyan's expectations. His original plan was to hide in Nanjing City for a few days first. After thoroughly figuring out the situation here, he would figure out how to kill Jiang Heng and avenge his brother. But now, Peng Kuiyan was silent for a long time, looked down at the photo on the screen, and then looked up at the figure in front of him. Apart from the facial features being more resolute and the figure being taller, it was almost exactly the same as the photo. Obviously, this person was Jiang Heng, the murderer who killed his brother. Moreover, he seemed to have come alone. Peng Kuiyan put the communicator in his pocket, scrutinized Jiang Heng in front of him, and a flash of anger suddenly appeared in his eyes, ready to devour someone. Was it you who killed my brother? Before the words fell, his figure suddenly moved. The muscles all over his body surged like steel wires, his body half bent, and the chi energy in his body turned into a faint black light, attached to the surface of his skin. One step shattered the ground of the courtyard, causing gravel to splash and dust to fly. Since you are here to court death, then don't blame me for being rude. He shouted. Die. In the blink of an eye. His figure had already come in front of Jiang Heng, and the short knife he had taken out from his waist at some point. The tattoo on his right arm seemed to have really turned into a giant python, and the short knife turned into sharp fangs. Cutting down a vacuum area in midair, stabbing straight and accurately at Jiang Heng's throat. The strong wind was like a knife, wrapped and swept over. This speed, I'm afraid, is considered top-notch among level 3 peak stage martial artists. However, the next moment. Bang! Jiang Heng looked indifferent. The ink-colored boots had already been raised at some point, and the chi energy turned into a thick dragon, pouring into his right leg, wrapping the force of the vast power and falling heavily on Peng Kuiyan's waist and abdomen. Peng Kuiyan's pupils shrank, and before the blade had even touched Jiang Heng, his body flew out. Bang! With a loud noise, his body smashed the rear house, splashing dust into the sky. Peng Kuiyan's body was deeply trapped in the rubble ruins, and the severe pain in his abdomen could not help but make him subconsciously cover his lower abdomen, and his clothes were crushed on the spot by this kick. The skin and flesh were densely cracked, and the internal organs of the intestines and stomach were probably also severely damaged. Jiang Heng stood in front of the courtyard gate, retracted his right leg. He did not use any martial arts at this moment, but since he had cultivated 3 styles of the crippled ape to perfection. Jiang Heng's understanding of martial arts had gradually reached the martial arts genius Yuan Jinggong 100 years ago, far surpassing his peers. Even if it was just a casual kick, more than a dozen qi energy running routes could be operated simultaneously on the waist, abdomen, and legs, and the power was no less than using ordinary professional-level martial arts. I originally wanted to ask you a few more questions. Jiang Heng looked at the rolling smoke and dust in the ruins in front of him, a flash of coldness flashed in his eyes. Since you want to fight so much, then I can accompany you. With a thought, his own breathing frequency changed, and he performed the third-order blood-burning technique. The ethereal flame breath in the world instantly merged into his body and fused with his own qi energy. Raging flames emerged from behind him, turning into a scarlet python, circling around him, and in the blink of an eye, burned his upper body martial arts bureau uniform to ashes. His already extremely strong body became even more sturdy under the effect of burning qi energy. His body height exceeded 2 meters, and his whole body seemed to turn into an iron tower burning with flames. Then, one step shattered the bricks under his feet, and his figure turned into a red shadow, smashing into the ruins. Chapter 82 End. Cough, cough. Peng Kuiyan spat out blood and crawled out of the ruins, stunned. How could this be? The professional-grade martial art he practiced was called Serpent Bite Saber, inherited from an ancient sect in the Thailand-Myanmar administrative region. This martial art was extremely difficult to master, but after learning it, one's saber technique speed could be greatly improved, surpassing martial artists of the same realm. This was also why he was able to defeat Pan Rufeng in one exchange and cut off one of his legs. But Jiang Heng's movements were actually faster than his. Before he could figure out what was going on, a surging gale wrapped in flames swept over from the smoke and dust. Peng Kuiyan's expression changed drastically, and he unhesitatingly slashed at the figure in the smoke ahead, but he directly missed. The next moment, a right leg seemed to transform into a black python, suddenly lashing at his waist. Even though he had reacted as much as possible, trying to block his arm in front of his waist, he was still blasted away by this whip kick. Excruciating pain flooded Peng Kuiyan's mind, which made him even more certain of one thing. This martial security agency genius named Jiang Heng did indeed have a nerve reaction speed far superior to his own. If this continued, not to mention wanting to kill him in a short time, he was afraid that even escaping would be difficult. There must be other martial security agency experts rushing over behind this person. He had to make a quick decision. Peng Kuiyan's eyes flashed fiercely, and seeing Jiang Heng attacking again, he no longer dodged, but instead gritted his teeth and stepped forward. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly. Courting death. He took a false step with his left foot, and pulled back his right arm as if drawing a 1,000-pound bow, exhaled, and his fist pointed outward in a mountain-destroying stance, taking advantage of the momentum to rotate his waist and flip his wrist. White Ape First Form, Mountain Cracking River. The power erupted from the perfected, 3 crippled ape forms, with the 50 chi pathways within the body running perfectly, was terrifying. The moment the fist was thrown, it was as if a 10,000-pound heavy bow had released its string, and the fist contained the power to collapse mountains, slamming out. In an instant, a gale roared in the dilapidated small courtyard. A sonic boom, as if mountains and rivers were collapsing, exploded in the courtyard, resounding throughout the entire street. The fist instantly blasted Peng Kuiyan's blocking left arm into bloody pulp, along with the shattered arm bones, imprinted into his chest. Surging flames also drilled into his flesh at the same time, evaporating blood and igniting flesh. Puff! Peng Kuiyan spat blood and flew backward on the spot, his body flying out of the small courtyard and crashing into an alley outside the courtyard. Cough cough cough. The intense pain of the left arm being carbonized and the ribs in his chest being broken flooded into his mind like a tide. At this moment, Peng Kuiyan was already seriously injured. But at this moment, he did not have the horror and anger of being seriously injured, but instead grinned, revealing a smile. Finally hit. He supported the wall behind him and struggled to get up from the ground, looking at Jiang Heng, who walked out of the smoke and dust. Just now, when Jiang Heng punched him in the chest, the short knife in his right hand also cut a wound on Jiang Heng's right arm. Even if it was only an insignificant, tiny wound, it was already enough. The reason why Peng Kuiyan dared to break into Nanjing City alone to seek revenge on the Martial Security Agency in Panglong was because he was confident that as long as he did not encounter a martial artist of the 4th level of physical body, any 3rd level martial artist he encountered could not be his opponent. This was not because his strength had reached the 3rd level invincible, but because he had a GU poison on his hand. This was a snake GU poison that he had traded for a heavy price from the 1000 GU alliance. According to legend, it was a virulent poison cultivated by feeding the venom glands of hundreds of mutated venomous snakes to GU worms using special methods. Once a third-level martial artist was poisoned, the GU poison would infect the whole body in a few seconds, and would die on the spot within half a minute. Even if a fourth-level martial artist was poisoned by this snake GU poison, they would have the possibility of dying if they did not inject high-quality antidote serum within half an hour. And Peng Kuiyan had just opened the mechanism on the short knife and released the snake GU poison onto the blade. Right now, the snake GU poison on the blade must have already invaded Jiang Heng's body. In at most half a minute, he would bleed from all 7 orifices and die on the spot. Peng Kuiyan cracked his mouth. Heh, you are dead. Jiang Heng walked out of the ruins of the courtyard and calmly glanced at the panel. Snake GU poison is eroding the body. Then he thought. The mysterious power of disease erosion turned into a warm current, pouring into his body. In just a breath of time, it had completely cleared the snake GU poison in his body. Physical body level, 3.85 right pointing arrow 3.86. Jiang Heng was slightly stunned. Well, good stuff. He looked up at Peng Kuiyan by the wall, his figure flashed and disappeared, and the next moment he came to him. His 5 fingers formed claws, as if reaching out to explore the moon. Qi gathered on his 5 fingers, and he used the white ape-second form, weeping blood moon grab. Crack! Peng Kuiyan's right arm was torn off by Jiang Heng on the spot. Blood spurted, bone stubble was sharp, and the fracture was rough. The severe pain could not help but make Peng Kuiyan let out a painful wail. Jiang Heng casually threw down Peng Kuiyan's broken arm, picked up the short knife, and looked at it for a while. He found that there was a cavity inside the short knife, which contained a kind of poison. Although some had just been consumed, 2/3 of the poison remained inside the cavity. Good stuff, wait until I go back and try it again. Jiang Heng nodded slightly and put away the short knife. Why are you okay? Peng Kuiyan fell to the ground, his expression painful, looking at Jiang Heng in disbelief. At this moment, his left arm was turned into coke ash, and his right arm had disappeared, the fierce aura just now disappeared, and the whole person was embarrassed. Jiang Heng turned his head and did not respond. Instead, he glanced at him calmly, and then stepped on and broke his only remaining legs one by one. In Peng Kuiyan's painful and twisted screams, he picked up his neck, like dragging a dead dog, and dragged him towards Shangmei Street. The reason why he didn't kill him was because Jiang Heng still planned to interrogate Peng Long, the stone Buddha, from Peng Kuiyan's mouth. He could roughly guess that it should be Peng Long who lured Peng Kuiyan to Nanjiang City. The battle between Jiang Heng and Peng Kuiyan ended in less than half a minute. Meanwhile, in Upper Plum Street, Duan Zhenyu was in a frantic state, contacting Zhang Yunliang to request reinforcements. Pan Rufeng, sitting in the corner, had just been scolded by Duan Zhenyu, and his face looked unpleasant. This criminal is extremely powerful. Captain Duan had better call for reinforcements quickly. Otherwise, Captain Yang's fate might not be much better than mine. Can you shut your mouth? Do I need you to teach me? Duan Zhenyu snapped. Pan Rufeng's face turned ashen upon hearing this. In his opinion, Peng Kuiyan had already demonstrated such formidable strength, yet Jiang Heng dared to chase after him alone. Even he himself had been defeated by Peng Kuiyan in a single move. Who did Jiang Heng think he was? It would have been fine if they hadn't met, but now that they had, he was probably already dead. Lu Zehai stood to the side, equally worried. Just then, his phone suddenly rang. Buzz. He took out his phone and saw the name on the caller ID, and was immediately taken aback, answering the call at once. Hello, Jiang Heng. Sure enough, Jiang Heng's voice came from the other end of the line. It's me. Captain Duan's phone is constantly busy. Can you hand him the phone for me? Okay. Lu Zehai turned to Duan Zhenyu and said, Captain, Jiang Heng's on the phone. Duan Zhenyu, who was still in contact with Zhang Yunliang, was startled upon hearing this and immediately took the phone. The newest novels are first released on 69shu.com. Hello, Jiang Heng, where are you now? Don't be reckless. Wait for us to arrive before taking action. No need, I've already caught the guy. Duan Zhenyu was stunned for a moment. What? Pan Rufeng, who was still bandaging his wounds in the corner, also suddenly turned his head. How sharp were the ears of a level 3 martial artist? He could naturally hear the conversation on the phone, and subconsciously said. That's impossible. But on the other end of the phone, Jiang Heng's voice continued to come through. I'm already on my way back. Wait for me on Upper Plum Street. Okay. Duan Zhenyu, still somewhat bewildered, hung up the phone and handed it to Lu Zehai. Then, he said to Zhang Yunliang, who was still on the line on his own phone. Director, no need to send reinforcements. Yes, Jiang Heng said he's already caught the criminal. When Jiang Heng dragged Peng Kuiyan, whose limbs were all broken, back to Upper Plum Street, the dozens of Marshal Security Bureau members on the street fell silent for a moment. Especially the members of the 13th branch who had come from the headquarters. They had personally experienced the immense pressure that Peng Kuiyan brought. They had watched helplessly as their always victorious Captain Pan Rufeng was defeated in a single move, and even had a leg severed. Yet, a mere dozen minutes later, they saw Peng Kuiyan with all 4 limbs broken, dragged back from the end of the street by Jiang Heng, who was holding him by the scruff of his neck like livestock. The sense of contrast was immense. Pan Rufeng, lying in the corner, saw this scene and his face turned even paler. He could hardly believe his eyes, and kept muttering to himself. How is this possible? Duan Zhenyu snapped out of his shock and, hearing the commotion, turned to look at Pan Rufeng. He cursed the man as useless under his breath, but couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief in his heart. This time, Pan Rufeng from the headquarters had caused the trouble, but Jiang Heng, the branch captain from the sub-bureau, had saved the day. He himself had neither made a contribution nor committed a fault, and no longer needed to bear responsibility. As for Pan Rufeng, if Jiang Heng hadn't intervened, Peng Kuiyan probably wouldn't have been caught. It was hard to say how much trouble that would have caused. Presumably, the headquarters' punishment for Pan Rufeng wouldn't be light this time, and they might even strip him of his branch captain title. But, he deserved it. Thinking of this, Duan Zhenyu's mood immediately improved a lot, and then he shook his head with a sigh. Haha, both were one-on-one fights, but Jiang Heng won a complete victory, while Pan Rufeng was defeated in a single move. Moreover, Jiang Heng was 3 years younger than Pan Rufeng. It seemed that the difference between geniuses could sometimes be even greater than the difference between a genius and a useless person. Now that Jiang Heng had brought the person back, there was no need for the 2 martial security branches to continue staying on Upper Plum Street. The 3rd branch of the sub-bureau took the quadriplegic Peng Kuiyan back to their headquarters. The 13th branch of the headquarters, on the other hand, needed to take Pan Rufeng to the hospital to treat his broken leg before returning to the headquarters to report back. Yukon District Martial Security Bureau. Jiang Heng handed Peng Kuiyan over to the interrogation department, and then went to the director's office with Duan Zhenyu to see Zhang Yunliang. Old Duan, I have to say something to you this time. You should prioritize the mission above all else, and shouldn't have accommodated that Pan Rufeng from the headquarters so much. If Jiang Heng hadn't stepped in this time and caught the person, who knows how much trouble would have occurred in Yukon District. Can you bear that responsibility? Duan Zhenyu smiled wryly, repeatedly saying yes. Jiang Heng thought for a moment and said, Director, I suspect that this Peng Kuiyan might have some connection with Hongman's Peng Long. It would be best to have the interrogation department extract the information as soon as possible. All right, don't worry about that. Zhang Yunliang nodded, his attitude becoming more and more gentle. I will also have the interrogation department calculate the merit points you've earned this time as soon as possible. Xiao Zhang, do you need anything else? Jiang Heng thought about it, and he really did need something. He only had 1.5 grams of flame breath energy essence left, and it would be used up in 2 days. And flame breath energy essence couldn't be bought in the normal Martial Security Bureau mall. Thinking of this, Jiang Heng simply asked shamelessly, Director, can the merit points I earned this time be used to purchase special resources from the headquarters again? Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel Chapter 83, Snake Poison. Zhang Yunliang was slightly stunned by Jiang Heng's words. He immediately reacted, have you already used up the 5 grams of flame breath energy essence you took away before? Jiang Heng shook his head, not yet, but it will be soon. Zhang Yunliang was slightly speechless. This energy essence was generally a treasure consumed by warriors above body refinement level 5, and 5 grams could last at least half a month. But Jiang Heng was only at body refinement level 3, yet he had already used it up in less than 10 days. However, thinking of the mentor who might be standing behind Jiang Heng, he felt relieved. Okay, after your meritorious service is settled this time, I will help you ask Director Wang, but I can't guarantee this kind of thing. It still depends on his opinion. Jiang Heng nodded, indicating his understanding. After chatting for a while, Jiang Heng bid farewell to the Martial Security Agency and returned to the Guangxin Street garrison. Bedroom. Compared to the spacious bedroom of the Chongming Street garrison, the room in Guangxin Street was smaller and the lighting was not very good. In addition, the floor of the martial arts room on the first floor had been damaged during his recent cultivation, so the martial arts room had to be repaired. Once the Hongmen incident was completely over, Jiang Heng planned to move back to the Chongming Street garrison. At this moment, Jiang Heng was sitting at his computer desk, taking out the short knife he had obtained from Peng Kuiyan today. There was a mechanism at the handle of the short knife. As long as the mechanism was opened, the poison inside the knife would flow out along the tip of the knife and cover the blade. Jiang Heng directly poured the poison from the blade into a medicine bottle. The amount of poison that the short knife could hold was not much, only about 5 milliliters. Then, according to the 3 words, Snake GU poison, displayed on the panel before, he found relevant information about this poison. This poison came from the separatist rebel forces in the Thai Myanmar Administrative Region, the 1000 GU Allied Army. It was rumored that the predecessor of the 1000 GU Allied Army was 13 Tongs of southern Xinjiang. After the arrival of Tianmen 200 years ago and various mutations occurred in Earth's creatures, they began to pick up the ancient GU breeding inheritance again to study GU worms and GU poison. And combined it with martial arts, embarking on their own path. The warriors who came out of the 13 Tongs of southern Xinjiang were extremely good at using GU worms and GU poison. And the 1000 GU Allied Army also relied on this method to quickly develop and grow in the Thai Myanmar Administrative Region, eventually reaching this point. In judging from today's fight with Peng Kuiyan, the GU poison of the Thai Myanmar 1000 GU alliance seemed to be able to work on Jiang Heng as well. Jiang Heng withdrew his gaze from the computer screen and then looked at the medicine bottle placed on the table. Try again. He then took out a tungsten steel needle from the medical kit, drew the light blue venom from the medicine bottle, and slowly injected it into the vein of his arm. A tingling sensation quickly spread from the wound to his whole body. A line of text also popped up on the panel. Snake GU poison is eroding the body. Jiang Heng moved his mind and immediately activated the power of disease erosion, quickly clearing the flesh and nerves in his body that were contaminated by the snake GU poison. And while clearing it, he continued to inject GU poison into the vein of his arm. In the blink of an eye, the body refinement level on the panel began to jump. Body refinement level, 3.86 right pointing arrow 3.87. Body refinement level, 3.87 right pointing arrow 3.88. Half a minute later, Jiang Heng had injected all the poison in the syringe into the vein of his arm. And the power of disease erosion followed closely behind, clearing the parts of his body that were contaminated and eroded by the GU poison, feeding back into the body refinement level. Jiang Heng pulled out the needle and glanced at the panel in his sight. Body refinement level, 3.90. He raised his eyebrows slightly, his eyes lit up. Just 5 milliliters of GU poison raised my body refinement level from 3.86 to 3.90. This snake GU poison was just a common type of GU poison in the 1000 GU Allied Army, and there were more GU worms and poisons with more intense toxicity inside. If I had more, wouldn't I take off? Jiang Heng looked at the empty medicine bottle in front of him, feeling a little regretful. This speed of improving the body refinement level through poison was really too convenient. He didn't need to spend a lot of time cultivating every day, and in just less than a minute, he could improve his body refinement level a lot. When my strength is enough in the future, I will definitely have to go to this Thai Myanmar Administrative Region. Putting aside everything else, I must get some of these GU poisons. Jiang Heng sat on the chair and roughly estimated his current strength. Between 3.60 and 3.90 was considered the late stage of level 3, and after 3.90, it was considered the peak of level 3. Jiang Heng's body refinement level and martial arts realm had both entered the level of the peak of level 3. If he were placed in the Yukon District Martial Security Agency, he might already be able to overwhelm Zhang Yunliang. Although Zhang Yunliang had been at the peak of level 3 for more than 10 years, his body refinement level had already reached 3.99. And his bone potential was probably more than 80% developed. If he was still in his prime, Jiang Heng didn't have complete confidence that he could beat him. But Zhang Yunliang had already passed his golden age of 35, and his energy and blood were gradually declining, so naturally he couldn't be his opponent now. Now, Jiang Heng's own combat power had reached the first in Yukon District. But if he was placed in the entire Nanjing City? Jiang Heng recalled the situation of Nanjing City that he knew. In the Martial Security Headquarters alone, there were more than 5 experts at body refinement level 4. Outside the Martial Security Agency, the major enterprises in the center of Nanjing City, as well as the body refinement level 4 in Hongmen, were not in the minority. As for the Hongmen leader, Lin Zhenan, it was said that he had reached the peak of body refinement level 4 many years ago. Although he was old now, he still seemed to retain extremely strong combat power. And according to rumors, there were even existences above body refinement level 5 in Nanjing City, but they rarely showed up. Thinking of this, Jiang Heng slightly restrained his smile. Hongmen. He had to at least destroy Hongmen before he could be considered to truly have the ability to protect himself when traveling outside. Only then could he go out and see this world 200 years later. As for now, it was still early. First find that Pang Long and kill him. Sending people to kill him 3 times and twice, Jiang Heng and this Pang Long had long since become mortal enemies. The newest and fastest novels are on 69shu.com. Therefore, this guy must die. Now it depends on whether the interrogation department can interrogate Peng Kuiyan to find out the whereabouts of Pang Long. In addition, he had to improve his body refinement level to level 4 as soon as possible. And it was best to develop his bone potential to 90% before breaking through to body refinement level 4. Jiang Heng's current bone potential had reached 65%. After cultivating the 3 forms of the crippled ape to perfection, he modified the 3 forms of the crippled ape and developed 5% of his bone potential. As for the remaining 25%, it was hidden deep in the bones, and even if he continued to cultivate other professional level martial arts, it would probably be difficult to improve it. I guess I still have to rely on drugs. I remember that the special resource list that the director showed me last time seemed to have special drugs for developing bone potential, but the price. Thinking of this, Jiang Heng twitched the corner of his mouth. Forget it, I'll talk about it later. He simply stopped thinking about it and then picked up the jade box on the computer desk. At this time, only 1.5 of the 5 rice grain-sized flame breath energy essence crystals in the jade box still contained red flowing light. Jiang Heng picked up the half crystal, put it in his mouth, and sat on the bed to start practicing the candle fire breathing method. North of Yuquan District. In a villa in Baoshan District. Pang Long looked at the message coming from the communicator, and his pupils suddenly contracted. How is this possible? Peng Kuiyan was actually defeated by Jiang Heng. He was the same peak level 3 as himself. This was simply unbelievable. Pang Long sat back in the alloy chair behind him, muttering to himself. He now realized how much he had underestimated this orphan in Yuquan District. Pang Long gradually fell silent, his face gloomy. Now that Peng Kuiyan had been arrested, his plan to kill someone with a knife had completely failed. As for him going to assassinate the branch captain of the Yuquan District Martial Security Agency himself. Now in the Yuquan District Martial Security Agency, there were Zhang Yunliang and Jiang Heng, 2 combat powers at the peak of level 3. If he really went, he was afraid that he would really be gone forever. The task that Lin Zhenan gave him would definitely not be completed. Thinking of this, Pang Long's blood gradually turned cold. In 2 days, once Lin Zhenan found out that he still hadn't completed the task, he would be dead. As for leaving Nanjing City, that was also impossible. All his channels for leaving Nanjing City were related to Hongmen. Once he had such an idea, Lin Zhenan would definitely be the first to know. That way, he would only die faster. Pang Long sat quietly for a long time, slowly talking to himself. There is no other way, I can only turn to those people. He picked up the communicator again, dialed a phone number, and slowly said. Hello, I am Pang Long. The things you said last time, I am willing to become your test subject. The next morning, Jiang Heng opened his eyes from the bed, got up and picked up his phone, noticing a message from Pei Yu on the screen. Pei Yu, Brother Jiang, I have already made C2 type nerve toxin, molten iron potion, and 2 type super speed regeneration serum. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly. After waiting for so long, had the finished product finally been made? In fact, a few days ago, Pei Yu had made samples of these 3 drugs, but the quantity was too small, so he waited a few more days before making the finished product. He then replied, Jiang Heng, okay, I will come over now. Then he washed his face and went to the Red Rain Clinic on Engson Street. Chapter 84 Level 3 Limit. Jiang Heng stepped into the clinic's door. At this moment, 2 girls who were chatting behind the counter on the left immediately stood up and said, Captain Jiang, you're here. These were 2 assistants that Pei Yu had hired, named Lu Shu and Lu Yu. Recently, more and more patients had been coming to the clinic, and Pei Yu couldn't handle it all by herself, so she hired these 2 girls from Engson Street as assistants. Jiang Heng had also occasionally come to Red Rain Clinic during this time, so the two girls recognized him. Yeah, Jiang Heng asked, where's Pei Yu? Dr. Pei is in the dispensary in the backyard. Okay. Jiang Heng nodded, walked through the corridor, and arrived at the newly built dispensary. At this moment, Pei Yu was flipping through a stack of documents in the dispensary. Jiang Heng walked into the dispensary. Xiao Yu. Pei Yu was startled and quickly stood up, putting down the documents in her hand. Brother Jiang, you're here. Jiang Heng's eyes swept over the documents that Pei Yu had put down. Open double-angle bracket analysis of facial scar treatment drugs and the possibility of surgical treatment close double-angle bracket. Pei Yu said a little embarrassedly, I plan to treat my face, otherwise, I'll always scare patients. Well, it's okay, it looks quite heroic, not to the point of being scary, but it's good to be able to treat it. Jiang Heng comforted her. In fact, if it weren't for this scar, Pei Yu would have looked pretty good. However, with the plastic surgery technology of this era, appearance is no longer a scarce resource. Yeah, Pei Yu nodded lightly. Jiang Heng thought for a while and asked, I haven't asked you before, how did you get the scar on your face? He hadn't asked much before because they weren't familiar, but now it wouldn't hurt to ask about the specifics. He was also curious about where Pei Yu's extremely exaggerated medical knowledge came from. Pei Yu hesitated slightly, but finally said, I was kidnapped when I was little, and this scar was left at that time. Jiang Heng's eyes narrowed. Who, Hongman? Pei Yu shook her head. No, I can't remember the specifics. It was a long time ago when I was very young. She turned her head and picked up a few bottles of potions from the table in the pharmacy. Brother Jiang, these are a few bottles of potions I've made in the past few days. They are C2 type nerve toxin, iron melting potion, and type 2 super speed regeneration serum. Do you think they meet your needs? Jiang Heng took the 3 bottles of potions and scanned them. If he were only at the 2nd level or early 3rd level, he would probably be very excited about the effects of these potions. But now he is at the peak of the 3rd level, and he has just taken a kind of GU poison with extremely strong medicinal properties. It is unknown how strong his immunity is. Whether these potions can still poison him is also a question. Jiang Heng thought for a while and asked, can these potions work on martial artists at the 4th level of the flesh body? Pei Yu was slightly stunned, probably not. Oh. Jiang Heng nodded, with a hint of disappointment in his eyes, but he didn't say much. Pei Yu panicked in her heart and quickly said, Brother Jiang, is there something wrong with what I did? Jiang Heng shook his head. No, you did a good job, it's just that the effects of these potions are still a bit lacking, and they probably won't have much effect. Is that so? Jiang Heng nodded and continued, okay, then I'll go first. Contact me if you need anything. Okay. Afterwards, Pei Yu sent Jiang Heng to the clinic door and watched him leave. The Lu Shu and Lu Yu sisters behind the counter stepped forward with smiles and put their arms around Pei Yu's shoulders. Sister Pei Yu, why are you standing at the door all the time? Could it be that you have a crush on Captain Jiang? Pei Yu was slightly stunned and quickly shook her head. How is that possible? My face is like this, how could he possibly like me? What are you afraid of? Medical technology is so advanced now, the scar on Sister Pei Yu's face will definitely disappear. Pei Yu subconsciously touched the scar on her face and said nothing. At this time, it was time for the patients in the ward to change their medicine, and the two sisters quickly went to help the patients change their medicine. Pei Yu retracted her thoughts and went to help, and only returned to her bedroom after it was over. She sat by the bed for a long time, recalling her conversation with Jiang Heng just now, and murmured softly. The effect is poor. That is to say, the potions that Brother Jiang needs, the more toxic the better. She stood up and came to an old computer. She turned on the computer, entered a login interface that seemed to be full of garbled characters, and entered a string of passwords. Then, she was redirected to a red and blue website interface. Website name, open double angle bracket Apocalypse Life Forum close double angle bracket. Posts with extremely long lengths were constantly flashing on the screen below, and people were communicating in the forum almost every moment. The vast majority of these posts almost all involved extremely valuable or highly confidential biomedical data. For example, some viruses that can cause large-scale infections worldwide, research on lethal drugs targeting the 8th level of the flesh body, and so on. If Jiang Heng were here at this moment, he would probably be excited on the spot. If he could get a shot of every kind of poison recorded in these posts, he wondered how much improvement it would bring him. Moreover, all accounts on this special forum are invitation only. Only researchers in the field of biomedicine who are the most outstanding in the East Asian region are qualified to be invited to join this forum. And because of an accident 10 years ago, Pei Yu obtained this forum account. Since then, she has been constantly absorbing the world's top biomedical knowledge on this forum. In the bedroom, the screen of the old computer emitted an uncertain light. Pei Yuji focused her attention and began to concentrate on helping Jiang Heng find the medicine he might need on the forum. Jiang Heng returned to the guard room with 3 bottles of medicine. Although he didn't have much hope for these potions, it was still necessary to try. He sat in his office chair and first opened the seal of the C2 nerve toxin, swallowing 100 milliliters in one gulp. After waiting for half a minute, there was almost no change in his body. Only then did a line of words slowly pop up on the panel. C2 nerve toxin is eroding the body. As expected, it doesn't work. Jiang Heng waited for a while, and after confirming that the nerve toxin could no longer function, he directly used the power of disease erosion to clean it up. Then came the molten iron potion. The newest novels are first published on 69 Shu 8. The effect of this potion is a bit like burning blood, which can enhance one's own combat power in a short period of time, but drinking too much can easily lead to qi and blood exploding and dying. Jiang Heng still opened the seal and swallowed all of the molten iron potion into his mouth. After waiting for half a minute, he felt the changes in his body, and finally shook his head. This effect is not as great as the increase from his own third-level blood burning. He sighed helplessly and didn't have much hope for the last Type 2 super speed regenerative serum. But he still opened the seal and poured it into his mouth in one gulp. This serum can greatly increase the hematopoietic capacity of bone marrow in a short period of time, and was originally used for first aid. However, once too much is taken at one time, it will drain the potential of the bone marrow, leading to a disease called medullary aplasia, causing the body to completely lose its hematopoietic ability, and even endangering life. Hematopoietic ability greatly improved, bone marrow potential is rapidly being consumed. As soon as he took it, a line of information immediately popped up on the panel. Jiang Heng was slightly stunned. This time, the effect seems to be pretty good. It seems that his body is not resistant to this kind of medicine. After waiting for a moment, Jiang Heng felt that his whole body's bones seemed to be heating up, the blood vessels all over his body bulged, and even his body began to swell slightly. It was as if the number of blood cells in his body began to skyrocket. It wasn't until half an hour later that this effect gradually subsided, and Jiang Heng opened the panel and took a look. Current state: mild Yanyi syndrome, mild biological motor dysfunction syndrome, severe medullary aplasia. It really works, try using disease erosion to transform it. With a thought in Jiang Heng's mind, the gentle and mysterious power of disease erosion quickly flowed into his body, converging towards the bone marrow of his whole body, repairing the already withered bone marrow. Subsequently, a piece of data on the panel began to jump. Bone potential development progress, 65% right pointing arrow 66%. Bone potential development progress, 66% right pointing arrow 67%. Jiang Heng was stunned for a moment, and then overjoyed. This kind of super speed regenerative serum can actually develop the potential of bone marrow. That's right. What this thing consumes is the potential of the bone marrow. After a few breaths, the power of disease erosion in his body gradually dissipated, and the bone potential on the panel also made considerable progress. Bone potential development progress, 70%. One bottle of this super speed regenerative serum increased the bone potential development progress by 5%. If you buy special resources from within the Wuhan Bureau, I'm afraid it would cost 10,000 merit points, and you might not be able to increase the progress by 5%. This saved him so much money. Jiang Heng slowly exhaled, his eyes filled with joy. Good stuff. If he can increase his bone potential to 90%, the intensity of the qi sensation in his body may be able to increase by another 50%. By then, when he uses the third-level blood burning, the illusory crimson python surrounding his body may really be able to solidify. He immediately contacted Pei Yu. Jiang Heng, that kind of Type 2 super speed regenerative serum is pretty good, please help me make a few more bottles as soon as possible. At this moment, Pei Yu was looking through the Apocalypse Life forum in the bedroom. Suddenly, she saw the message on her phone, and her face suddenly lit up, and she quickly replied. Pei Yu, okay, I'll go make it right away. 2 days later, early morning. Jiang Heng, who had been practicing for a night, stood up, moved his muscles and bones slightly, and then spat out the last Yanyi energy essence he was holding in his mouth. At this time, a total of 5 grams of Yunyi energy essence had been completely consumed. And his strength has already reached the limit of the 3rd level of the physical body. Jiang Heng opened the panel. Name: Jiang Heng. Physical level: Level 3.99. Cultivation method: Candlelight series Level 3 Candlelight breathing method complete. Martial arts: Remnant 8-3 forms modified. Current state: mild Yunyi syndrome, mild biological motor dysfunction syndrome. After absorbing the last Yunyi energy essence, Jiang Heng's physical level had already reached level 3.99. He was completely standing at the peak of the 3rd level martial artist, only 1 step away from the 4th level physical body. Jiang Heng looked at himself in the mirror with satisfaction. At least among the 3rd level physical martial artists in Nanjiang City, he should have no opponents. Buzz. A call notification popped up on the screen of the phone on the sink. It was Director Zhang Yunliang. Jiang Heng answered the phone. Hello, Director. Xiao Zhang, the interrogation results of Peng Kuiyan are out. The interrogation department learned from him the location of Peng Long. When Jiang Heng heard this, his eyes suddenly narrowed. They found Peng Long's location. Chapter 85 Target. Okay, I'll be right there. Jiang Heng hung up the phone, then changed into a Bureau of Martial Security uniform and pushed open the door. A moment later, he arrived at the Yukon District Bureau of Martial Security, at the director's office. Knock, knock, Director, it's me. Come in. Jiang Heng pushed the door open and saw Zhang Yunliang behind his desk. At this time, the expression on Zhang Yunliang's face was not very good, and he did not seem to show any joy at discovering Peng Long's whereabouts. Little Zhang, come and sit down. Yes. Jiang Heng nodded, then sat down in front of the desk. Director, has the interrogation section interrogated Peng Long's whereabouts from Peng Kuiyan's mouth? Zhang Yunliang nodded. Yes, it was Peng Long who contacted this Peng Kuiyan, telling him that you killed the 2 members of the Serpent Fang gang, and lured him to smuggle himself to the Thai Myanmar administrative region to seek revenge on you. He paused, and continued. However, this Peng Kuiyan is not easy to fool. He also guessed that the death of his 2 gang members must be related to Hongmen. Therefore, he made preparations in advance, and during their contact, he had already located the location where Peng Long was hiding. Jiang Heng immediately asked, where is it? Zhang Yunliang frowned slightly. It's in the villa area on the east side of Baoshan district. It's not far away, but there's a bit of a problem. Jiang Heng was a little puzzled. What's the problem? Baoshan district is next to our Yukon district. Normally, we can directly apply to the Baoshan District branch of the Bureau of Martial Security for cross-regional law enforcement, and then go directly to Baoshan District to arrest people. But 2 or 3 times before, the Bureau found that criminals from Hongmen were hiding in Baoshan District, and applied to the Baoshan District Bureau of Martial Security for cross-regional law enforcement, but the final result was failure. Jiang Heng's eyes narrowed slightly. You mean? Zhang Yunliang nodded. I suspect that there may be an inside agent of Hongmen in the Baoshan District Bureau of Martial Security, and the position is not low, even. He paused slightly, and did not continue. Jiang Heng asked somewhat puzzled, shouldn't this kind of thing be reported to Director Wang of the General Bureau? Zhang Yunliang nodded slightly. I have already told Director Wang my guess, but Director Wang has his own considerations and has not taken any action for the time being. However, in this way, it is not easy for us to enter Baoshan District to arrest people again. So my suggestion is to directly pass this situation to the General Bureau and let the General Bureau send a detachment to arrest Peng Long in Baoshan District. But after all, this is the information you captured, and your opinion is the main one. What do you think? Jiang Heng frowned slightly and asked, since there may be an inside agent of Hongmen in the Baoshan District Bureau of Martial Security, then it is hard to guarantee that there is none in the General Bureau, right? Who knows if there are any inside agents of Hongmen within the General Bureau, and whether it will affect this arrest operation. There is only one chance to catch this Peng Long. Once missed, it will be difficult to catch him again. Naturally, he could not let such an enemy be at large. Zhang Yunliang was slightly stunned. This. A cold glint flashed in Jiang Heng's eyes, and he continued, in that case, why don't I do it myself? I can't enter Baoshan District as a law enforcement officer, so I enter Baoshan District as an individual and happen to encounter a wanted criminal from Hongmen. At this time, the situation is urgent, and I don't have time to apply to the Baoshan District Bureau of Martial Security, so I directly arrest him. No one can find fault with that, right? Zhang Yunliang was slightly speechless, and smiled wryly. Indeed, no one can find fault, but we only know the possible hiding place of Peng Long, but we don't know the specific situation there, it's too dangerous for you to go alone. It's okay, Director, I know what I'm doing, Jiang Heng said calmly. Zhang Yunliang looked at the calm aura emanating from Jiang Heng's body, and inexplicably felt a faint sense of oppression. He was stunned in his heart, and then somewhat astonished. Before, no matter what level Jiang Heng's strength reached, he had never felt this way. But now, your current strength, Zhang Yunliang couldn't help but ask. Jiang Heng sat calmly on the chair, his tall figure like an iron tower. He said, within Nanjiang City, below level 4, no one should be my opponent. Zhang Yunliang was stunned when he heard this, and then his face stiffened. I'm also below level 4. Jiang Heng blinked, and then added. However, the director is experienced in many battles, and his combat experience is veteran, which I can't match. Except for the director, I should not be afraid of other level 3 martial artists. The corners of Zhang Yunliang's mouth twitched slightly. There's no need to talk nonsense with me. If you can't beat me, you can't beat me. I know my own level. Okay. Since you are so confident, then I'll leave this matter to you. I will let Duan Zhenyu's 3rd detachment cooperate with you, ready to provide support at any time. If there is an accident, retreat to Yukon district in time. Jiang Heng nodded. Okay, thank you, Director. Zhang Yunliang nodded, then thought of something again. By the way, the merit points calculated by the interrogation section for you for capturing Peng Kui in this time have come out, which is 60,000. Jiang Heng was slightly surprised when he heard this, so much. Normally, the merit point reward that the Bureau can give for capturing a level 3 martial artist in the flesh is generally between 20,000 and 30,000. If it is the peak of level 3, it can give up to 40,000 merit points. It is rare to see a reward of 60,000. Zhang Yunliang smiled. This is because you saved the mess caused by Pan Rufeng of the General Bureau, which is considered an extra merit. Jiang Heng nodded thoughtfully. Zhang Yunliang continued casually, that Pan Rufeng has been dismissed by Director Wang and is preparing to be sent to the military. His character is really easy to delay things. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. In addition, it's about what you told me before, that you want to buy special resources again. I asked Director Wang, and he has already agreed. Jiang Heng's eyes lit up slightly when he heard this. Now his physical level has reached level 3.99. Only 0.01 level away from level 4. However, this 0.01 level has trapped many martial artists. Even Zhang Yunliang in front of him has stayed at level 3.99 for many years. Eventually, he exceeded the golden age of 35 and completely lost the opportunity to step into the 4th level of the physical body. If Jiang Heng does not have other highly toxic or flame breath energy essence to assist him, I am afraid that it will be difficult to cross this boundary in a short time, at least it will take 2 or 3 months. But with the special resource purchase permission of the General Bureau, it is different. Zhang Yunliang asked, you should still remember the special resource interface that I showed you before, right? Just tell me what you want. Jiang Heng nodded, and then said without hesitation, 6 grams of flame breath energy essence. Although there are some other good things in those special resource lists, such as combat equipment that can increase strength. But those are not as important as breaking through to the 4th level of the physical body. Therefore, the flame breath energy essence is still the first priority. Zhang Yunliang was quite speechless. Sure enough, it's this again. You really have a soft spot for this energy essence. In fact, among those special resources, the cost performance of flame breath is not high, the others. Forget it, it's up to you. I'll apply for you later, and it should be delivered in the afternoon. Okay. Thank you, Director, then I'll go back and prepare first. Well, go ahead. Jiang Heng turned and left, leaving only Zhang Yunliang alone in the director's office. Zhang Yunliang looked at the direction Jiang Heng left, and muttered to himself. This is already the peak of level 3, stronger than me. In a few days, I'm afraid he will be at level 4 and climb on top of me. He shook his head, then touched his balding white hair and wondered. Should I also retire? Chapter 86, Fight. 2 p.m. An jade box containing 6 grams of flame breath energy essence was sent from the headquarters and handed to Jiang Heng. Jiang Heng looked at the jade box in his hand, which emitted a crystal clear, crimson-colored flowing light, and nodded with satisfaction. With these 6 grams of flame breath energy essence, I should be able to break through to the 4th level of the physical body very quickly. Ding dong. The phone screen lit up at this moment. It was a message from Pei Yu. Pei Yu. Brother Zhang, I have prepared 2 more bottles of Type 2 Super Speed Regeneration Serum. Jiang Heng picked up his phone, a smile unconsciously appearing at the corner of his mouth. Jiang Heng, okay, I'll come and get it this afternoon. Now his bone potential has been raised to 70%, not far from 90%. With the Type 2 Super Speed Regeneration Serum prepared by Pei Yu, he should also be able to raise his bone potential to 90% within half a month. The level of energy within his body will also be raised to another level. Withdrawing his thoughts, Jiang Heng opened the jade box in his hand and took out a grain-sized gram of flame breath energy essence. He put it in his mouth and began to practice the candle flame breathing technique. The sky gradually darkened. In Baoshan district, the villa area built on the hillside fell into a dimness. Jiang Heng's figure quietly appeared here. According to the location provided by Peng Kuiyan, Panglong was in the southwest corner of this villa area. The location was not particularly clear, he still needed to explore which villa it was. Jiang Heng took a step, his figure disappearing into the dense darkness of the night. Southwest of the villa area. In the first floor hall, Panglong's figure, which was originally like a small mountain, was now even larger. Layers of muscle knots appeared on his body, and the originally extremely solid alloy chair was now completely crushed by him. And at Panglong's feet, a used syringe rolled on the ground. On that syringe, there was also a Golden Cauldron logo, which was the symbol of the Golden Cauldron Group. The Golden Cauldron Group is a top-tier biomedical enterprise in Nanjing City, which has rapidly risen in just 10 years, becoming the top biomedical enterprise in Nanjing City. And they are also a cooperative partner of Hongmen. A large portion of the people Hongmen has abducted from the southwest districts of Nanjing City in recent years have been sent to the laboratories of the Golden Cauldron Group, becoming their experimental subjects, used to research martial arts and life evolution. 3 days ago, Panglong contacted the Golden Cauldron Group, agreeing to become their experimental subject in exchange for the opportunity to survive in Nanjing City. The other condition was that he must have the freedom to go out and could not be locked in the laboratory. A level 3 peak experimental subject is also rare for the Golden Cauldron Group, so they agreed to Panglong's request. And the potion on the ground is the latest research from the Golden Cauldron Group, CT, Tyrant Tardigrade Concentrate. Its function is to quickly enhance the combat power of martial artists, but only martial artists above level 3 late stage can withstand this pressure. As for the side effects, there are definitely some, but they are currently unknown. Because Panglong is one of the experimental subjects testing the side effects of this potion. Next, he needs to have his blood drawn and a piece of flesh sample taken by the Golden Cauldron Group every 3 days. Panglong's face was distorted, the pain of his entire body's cells tearing crazily tormented his nerves, and the increasingly fierce medicinal effects roamed within his body. His originally rock-like skin would crack from time to time, growing more robust and fresh red muscles. His body was covered in muscles almost like tumors, hanging on his body. A tyrannical will filled his mind, making him unable to resist the urge to rush out of the villa and slaughter wantonly in Baoshan district. This drastic change gradually subsided half an hour later. At this moment, Panglong's body has exceeded 2.5 meters, his body is 1.5 meters wide, and his muscles are like tangled tree roots, weaving into his body. Ink-colored energy constantly Yongchu Ti Biao, hovering around his body, occasionally transforming into a nearly 3-meter-tall illusory ghost, opening its bloody mouth and roaring silently. Panglong slightly clasped his palms, clenched his own fan-sized palms, the sound of his knuckles exploding like fried beans, broke the silence in the hall. A smile appeared on his face, his mouth stretching to the roots of his ears. Unprecedented, powerful strength. This is a powerful force that has exceeded the peak of level 3, approaching the 4th level of the physical body. Panglong grinned and laughed softly, the tyranny in his eyes turned blood red, hovering and not dispersing, his voice became strange and sharp. If I go back to Yuquan district now and cause trouble for the Martial Security Agency, no one should be able to stop me, right, even that Jiang Heng, presumably also. When he said this name, his words paused slightly, and his breathing suddenly became a little rapid. Jiang Heng. It's all because of that Jiang Heng. First killing Lu Yuheng, then killing Zhao Shan, Ding Yan, and Mo Sanyang, that's what caused him to fall into such a situation. The foundation of Hongmen in Yuquan district was destroyed, and even he himself was reduced to an experimental subject of the Golden Cauldron Group. It's all because of that damn guy. The tyrannical aura hovering in his mind became even more intense. The bloodshot in his eyeballs seemed to be able to drip a few drops of blood, and the killing intent emanating from his body almost solidified. What, CT, tyrant tardigrade concentrate brought him was not only powerful strength, but also a persistent sense of tyranny. Suddenly, tap, tap, tap. A footstep entered his ears from the staircase on the second floor, even if it was extremely slight. But in Peng Long's ears, which had also been strengthened at this moment, it seemed extremely clear. He slowly turned around and looked at the staircase behind him. At this moment, a tall figure wearing the uniform of the Martial Security Agency was walking down the stairs and stood in the first-floor hall. The newest novel is first published at 69shuba.com. There were no windows on the first floor of this villa, so Jiang Heng directly flipped into the house from the window on the second floor. After hearing the movement downstairs, he followed the stairs to this first floor, and sure enough, he saw Peng Long in the center of the first-floor hall. He glanced at Peng Long's huge body covered with muscle tumors at this moment, and the medicine bottle on the ground. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, his gaze converging on the empty medicine bottle. Looks like the effect is good. What good stuff did this guy inject? Jiang Heng. Peng Long's scarlet gaze was like a ghost in the dark hall, and the ink-colored energy behind him seemed to really turn into a phantom ghost, shrouding his body. How could you appear here? Could it be that this potion also has hallucinogenic effects? After Peng Long finished speaking, he grinned, revealing an exaggerated smile. Forget it, whether you're real or fake, it doesn't matter. I will cut you into 1,000 pieces and crush your body into 10,000 pieces today, ha 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 ha. Bang. Peng Long was still standing in place laughing maniacally the second before, but the next second his figure had disappeared, leaving only a spiderweb-like footprint spreading out from where he stood. His mountain-like figure crashed into the air, wrapped in the 3-meter-high ink-colored energy that spread around him, smashing towards Jiang Heng like a meteorite. Die for me, comma. Boom. Peng Long spat blood and flew backwards, his mountain-like body crashing and shattering the outer wall of the villa, smashing the asphalt ground outside the villa, and rolling out dozens of meters on the shattered ground. The ferocious ghost transformed by the energy on his body was swallowed by the spreading crimson flames, and the flames had even begun to spread to Peng Long's rock-like skin. The next moment, from the huge hole with a diameter of 4 meters in the outer wall of the villa, a 2-meter-tall figure walked out. The clothes on his upper body were burned to ashes by the flames, revealing a body of muscles like jade sculptures. The flames transformed by the energy behind him soared into the sky, as if about to burn the sky. Jiang Heng took a step out of the villa hole. The candle flame breathing technique is the strongest fighting breathing technique washed out in the Southern War 100 years ago. And the third order burning blood in the perfect realm is also the most explosive and fighting intensity breathing technique ability among the third level breathing techniques. At the same time, the majestic energy condensed from 10% shallow muscle potential, 90% deep muscle potential, and 75% bone potential has already exceeded the peak of the third level in intensity. In addition, the power of the open double angle bracket crippled 8-3 forms revised close double angle bracket that he deduced and improved even surpassed the martial arts moves performed by senior Yuan Jinggong back then. What a terrifying combat power Jiang Heng's full-strength explosion can produce under the superposition of various factors. How can Peng Long's mere unknown effect, 3-no potion be able to contend with it? PFF'd. Peng Long spat out a mouthful of blood, got up, and looked blankly at the figure burning like a raging fire in front of him. Could it be, really a hallucination? Under the huge gap, he even began to suspect that everything he was experiencing now was a hallucinogenic side effect brought about by the CT, tyrant tardigrade concentrate. After all, how could that Jiang Heng of the Yukon District Martial Security Agency possibly appear here? It's just the collapsed and shattered flesh and bones in his chest, the collapse and fragmentation of energy, and the intense pain that surged like a tide clearly told him the reality of the scene at this moment. I don't believe it. The potion that had not been completely transformed in Peng Long's body was absorbed into his body again, and the skin of his entire body cracked again, growing more hideous and terrifying muscle tumors. The ink-colored energy in his body surged out, turning into an even taller and rampant ferocious ghost, attached to the surface of his body. The surface of his skin suddenly turned into a piece of pitch black, like a pitch-black rock growing in hell. His body, which was already like a mountain, completely turned into a pitch-black stone Buddha at this moment. He opened his mouth, revealing a black hole-like mouth, and a low voice slowly sounded on the street. Come, fight. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 87 End. Villa District. The commotion had already alarmed the ordinary residents here. Lights briefly flickered on in the villas nearby, casting gazes towards the disturbance. Then, the lights were turned off, for fear of drawing the attention of the battling parties below. The security personnel of the villa district had also noticed the situation. But one side was engulfed in flames, soaring into the sky, while the other was like a demonic Buddha with skin of black stone. Neither side was someone they could afford to provoke. A few thousand yuan a month wasn't worth risking their lives against such powerful individuals. On the shattered street, Pang Long, the stone Buddha, had murder swirling in his eyes. His large, fan-like feet had already burst through his shoes. He stepped on the ground, his figure shooting upwards, towards Jiang Heng above. At this moment, the CT, Tyrant Water Bear Concentrate, was working to its maximum potential. All the power and chi in his body erupted simultaneously, unleashing the most powerful blow of his life. Boom! His figure stirred up a gale, with waves of chi sweeping outwards, kicking up sand and gravel, and erupting with a muffled sonic boom. A jet-black fist the size of a head, wrapped in inky chi, tore through the wind and slammed towards Jiang Heng's head. Jiang Heng's gaze narrowed slightly. His right foot stepped forward, and his left palm came together to gather chi into gang. The burning chi around him condensed into a crimson ape phantom, shrouding his body, and then he rose up with a roar. Remnant Ape Third Style Remnant Glow burns the river. Night fell, and under the bright moonlight, a crimson ape phantom with bulging muscles all over its body and a coppery complexion suddenly soared into the sky, its arm muscles twisting like tree roots, and its veins bulging. It collided fiercely with Pang Long. Bang! The jet-black stone Buddha fell to the ground like a cannonball. The gravel on the ground transformed into lethal weapons, shooting in all directions. Amidst the billowing smoke, the ground within a radius of several dozen feet sank 3 inches, covered with cracks. Jiang Heng followed closely, his crimson fists like pounding drums. With the force of a collapsing mountain and the speed of a burning river. The rocky skin of the jet-black stone Buddha, which was so hard that ordinary cannonballs could not penetrate it, was completely shattered under Jiang Heng's fists. Muscles all over his body turned into sunken blood pits, and the ground beneath Pang Long continuously compacted and sank. Accompanied by booming sounds, the entire street seemed to feel the clear tremors. A moment later, the sound gradually subsided, and Jiang Heng climbed out of the large pit with a diameter of 3 or 4 meters, clutching Pang Long's neck in his hand. At this time, Pang Long's enormous body of 2.5 meters was covered with charred blood holes the size of bowls. The bones of his limbs had been shattered, his mind was blurred, and blood was constantly spilling from his mouth. Jiang Heng didn't kill Pang Long, leaving him with a breath. The task of killing him would be left to the Martial Security Bureau's execution ground, and some things still needed to be answered from his mouth. Jiang Heng glanced at the security of the villa area hundreds of meters away, and without rushing to leave, he turned around, carrying Pang Long, and walked into the broken villa. He casually threw Pang Long's dying body on the ground. Jiang Heng picked up the medicine bottle he had previously dropped on the ground. A long tube injection made of special glass, with a few lines of special codes recorded on the label, and a golden cauldron logo. Jiang Heng narrowed his eyes slightly. He had naturally seen this logo before. Golden Cauldron Group, a rising biopharmaceutical company in recent years, has developed a variety of drugs in Nanjing City. This Golden Cauldron Group, is it related to Hongmen? Moreover, looking at the effect of this medicine injected into Pang Long's body, it is obviously impossible for it to be a drug developed through normal approval. Jiang Heng thought for a while, put away the medicine bottle, and then searched the entire villa slightly. Apart from finding a special alloy shell communicator, there was nothing special about it. Woo! A sharp siren sounded on the street outside the villa. Jiang Heng turned his head and glanced outside. The people from the Baoshan District Martial Security Bureau had arrived. Chen Zechen, the captain of the 3rd Detachment of the Baoshan District Martial Security Bureau, had a slightly gloomy look in his eyes, and scanned the exaggerated pit on the street. The scorching heat in the air had not completely dissipated. He took 2 steps forward, his eyes fixed on the hole in the outer wall. The person inside, come out immediately. Jiang Heng had already changed into a coat at this time. He stepped out of the villa's hole, carrying Pang Long's neck, and said, I am Jiang Heng, the captain of the 4th Detachment of Yukon District. Chen Zechen was slightly stunned, carefully staring at his face, the detachment leader of Yukon District. Why are you here? Why didn't you apply to the Baoshan District Martial Security Bureau for cross-district law enforcement? I was passing through Baoshan District and accidentally discovered a wanted criminal hiding in this villa. In an emergency, I reported to the Bureau and took action first. Now, the application for cross-district law enforcement should have been sent to the Baoshan District Martial Security Bureau. Chen Zechin was silent for a moment, his gaze swept over Peng Long, who was dying in Jiang Heng's hand, with some inexplicable meaning in his eyes. He said slowly, I can't confirm whether what you said is true or false. You come back with me now. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly. If he went back with them, Peng Long would also be sent to the Baoshan District Martial Security Bureau, and then it would have nothing to do with the Yukon District Martial Security Bureau. He didn't speak, and silently looked at the street in the distance. It should be coming soon. Seeing that he didn't speak, Chen Zechin took a step forward and said loudly. Please come back with me immediately, and after clarifying your identity and situation. Before he could finish his words, Jiang Heng glanced at him calmly, and a cold and stern aura quietly rose. Chen Zechin's words paused slightly, the hairs on his back stood up, and his throat subconsciously rolled slightly. At this time, the siren came again from the distance, and several police cars from the Yukon District Martial Security Bureau arrived at the scene. Duan Zhenyu got out of the driver's seat and said to Jiang Heng, Xiao Zhang, are you okay? I'm fine. Duan Zhenyu nodded. That's good. After speaking, he turned to look at Chen Zechin and said with a chuckle. I'm sorry, Captain Chen, Xiao Zhang has only been the detachment leader for less than a month, and he doesn't understand some rules. But he had already notified Bureau Chief Zhang before taking action, and now Bureau Chief Zhang has sent the application for cross-district law enforcement to Bureau Chief Li. If you have any questions, you can contact Bureau Chief Li to ask. Chen Zechin frowned slightly, picked up his phone, dialed the number, and hung up after listening for a while. Duan Zhenyu smiled. No problem, right. If there is no problem, then we will leave first. After speaking, he greeted Jiang Heng to board the police off-road vehicle and locked Peng Long, who was already dying and unconscious, with a special alloy lock. Under the gaze of Chen Zechin and a team of the Baoshan District Martial Security Detachment, they drove away. In the police car. Awesome, Xiao Zhang, you really caught this Peng Long. Duan Zhenyu said with a smile, then shook his head with some emotion. This Peng Long has been fighting against our Yukon District Martial Security Bureau for many years, and we finally caught him. Jiang Heng smiled and was about to say something. Suddenly, his heart moved slightly, and he noticed that someone seemed to be watching him from a distance. He turned his gaze and looked out of the car window. I saw a middle-aged man in a suit and leather shoes on the roof of a building hundreds of meters away under the night sky. At this moment, he was looking here with a calm face, his aura was as deep as the sea. Jiang Heng's eyes narrowed slightly. This person is a level 4 martial artist. The police car drove past quickly, and the figure on the building soon disappeared from his sight, and there seemed to be no intention of catching up. Jiang Heng slowly retracted his gaze, thoughtfully. Afterwards, several police cars quickly left Baoshan District and returned to the Yukon District Martial Security Bureau. Chapter 88 Physical Level 4. Yukon District, Wuhan Bureau. After sending Peng Long to the interrogation department, Jiang Heng went to Zhang Yunliang's office to report the situation. Good, we finally caught this guy. When Zhang Yunliang learned that Peng Long had been caught by Jiang Heng, he seemed to have unloaded a heavy stone from his heart, and a bit of ease appeared on his face. At the same time, the look he gave Jiang Heng also carried a hint of complexity. He and Peng Long had been fighting openly and secretly for many years, but he had never been able to take this person down. Yet Jiang Heng had only been in the Wuhan Bureau for half a year, and he had already destroyed the entire Hongmen in Yukon District, even capturing the leader, Peng Long. Jiang Heng thought for a moment and said, Director, during the process of arresting Peng Long today, I discovered that he seemed to have injected a medicinal liquid from the Jinding group, and... He paused slightly and continued, on the way back, I noticed a martial artist observing us from the rooftop of the building across the street, suspected to be at the 4th level of body refinement. Zhang Yunliang was slightly stunned, his expression immediately becoming serious, and he said, all right, I will have the interrogation department pry everything out of this guy's mouth as soon as possible. You've worked hard tonight, go back and rest first. Jiang Heng nodded and said, yes. Jiang Heng left the Wuhan Bureau and returned to the guard room, took out a small medicine bottle, and placed it on the table. The original medicine bottle that Peng Long had used had already been handed over to the interrogation department as evidence. And the medicinal liquid in this medicine bottle was a portion of what remained in that bottle. He planned to give it to Pei Yu for testing and analysis to see if he could determine its composition. The fact that the Jinding group could produce such extreme drugs was probably not a good thing. Their laboratory probably had even more extreme drugs, and these were all good things for Jiang Heng. If he could pry out evidence of the Jinding group's crimes from Peng Long's mouth, perhaps there would be a chance to lead a team to search the Jinding group. However, Jiang Heng thought of the man in a suit, suspected to be a fourth-level body refinement martial artist, standing on the rooftop of that building hundreds of meters away. He wondered where this person came from, whether it was a coincidence or intentional observation. If this person was a fourth-level body refinement martial artist from Hongmen or the Jinding group. Jiang Heng frowned slightly, thought for a moment, and then opened his computer. He logged into the Wuhan Bureau account and began to consult the internal Wuhan Bureau files on fourth-level body refinement martial artists in Nanjing City. A moment later, Jiang Heng looked up, having roughly understood the situation of fourth-level body refinement martial artists in Nanjing City. In the Nanjing City Wuhan Bureau, there were 8 fourth-level body refinement martial artists, 5 of whom were branch captains of the Wuhan General Bureau, and 3 of whom were directors of the Wuhan sub-bureaus in the outer areas of the city center. Hongmen had a total of 27 branch hall leaders, 6 of whom were fourth-level body refinement. As for the large enterprise capital in the city center, there were also scattered fourth-level body refinement martial artists. On the surface, the number of fourth-level body refinement martial artists within Nanjing City had already exceeded 50. The real number was probably more than that. At this moment, Jiang Heng's movement of scrolling the mouse paused slightly, stopping on a photo. Dressed in a suit and leather shoes, his body was upright but slightly thin, with a goatee on his chin. This person was one of the fourth-level leaders of Hongmen, Ghost Hand Hu Ming. The figure that Jiang Heng had seen on the rooftop hundreds of meters away tonight was almost identical to the figure in this photo. A sense of vigilance and crisis rose in Jiang Heng's heart. Did the arrest of Peng Long this time attract the attention of a fourth-level leader of Hongmen? Although his current strength far exceeded ordinary third-level body refinement, he was still unable to deal with a fourth-level body refinement. The difference between fourth-level body refinement and third-level body refinement was not just the difference in muscle strength, nerve reaction speed, and other aspects. More importantly, it was the difference in the quality of qi sensation. From first-level body refinement to third-level body refinement, the overall cell strength was being improved indiscriminately. This was equivalent to a process of foundation building. As for martial arts, it was the potential excavation of the body's skin, muscles, and bones, allowing martial artists to initially possess bioenergy and qi sensation, forming combat power. And the transformation process from third level to fourth level was to fuse and refine the bioenergy in the skin, muscles, and bones into one's own blood. At that time, the qi sensation combined with the blood would be 5 times, 10 times stronger than that of a third-level body refinement martial artist. After entering this realm, the weight of the blood in the martial artist's body would also increase significantly, even heavier than lead and mercury. Ultimately, every drop of blood in the body would contain a large amount of bioenergy, like a liquid bomb, capable of erupting extremely powerful power. Therefore, fourth-level body refinement was also known as the blood exchange realm. In the early, middle, and late stages of fourth-level body refinement were also called iron blood, silver blood, mercury blood. Even a fourth-level martial artist who had just stepped into the iron blood realm had about 5 times the bioenergy content in their blood compared to a third-level martial artist. And those who reached the mercury blood realm in the late stage of the fourth level were even described as having blood plasma like lead and mercury, each strand making thunder. The bioenergy content in the blood could even reach 50 times that of a third-level martial artist. What a chasm-like difference this was. Therefore, even if a peak third-level body refinement martial artist raised their body refinement level, bone potential, in martial arts realm to the limit of the third level, it would be impossible to compete with a martial artist who had just entered the fourth level. Jiang Heng withdrew his thoughts and thought to himself. Only by entering the fourth level of body refinement as soon as possible could he have the capital to deal with the higher-ups of Hongmen. Moreover, I should be close. He thought of this and closed the computer. Then, he took out a jade box filled with flame breath energy essence, took out a grain-sized flame breath energy essence, and held it in his mouth. He began to practice the third-level candlelight breathing technique, adjusting his breathing and mentally visualizing the rise of a flame. He hooked the crimson crystal in his mouth, constantly extracting the flame breath energy from it and integrating it into his body's flesh and blood. Until 3 hours later, dark red, pattern-like lines appeared on the surface of Jiang Heng's skin. He stopped practicing and moved his mind. The power of disease corrosion integrated into his body, and the dark red lines on the surface of his skin receded and recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, returning to normal in just a few breaths. Body refinement level, 3.99. The body refinement level had not changed, but Jiang Heng could clearly feel that he had taken another step closer to breaking through the boundary to the 4th level of body refinement. I should be able to break through to the 4th level of body refinement in just a few days. Jiang Heng murmured softly, then took out a bottle of Type 2 accelerated regeneration serum that Pei Yu had sent. Now that his bone potential had been developed to 75%, he should be able to increase it to 90% after taking a few more bottles of Type 2 accelerated regeneration serum. The higher the development progress of the body's potential, the more bioenergy that could be controlled and mobilized within the body. At that time, the improvement in blood quality would also be higher when breaking through to the 4th level of body refinement. Therefore, it was best to raise the bone potential to 90% before breaking through to the 4th level of body refinement. Thinking of this, Jiang Heng drank the Type 2 accelerated regeneration serum in his hand in one gulp. He felt the boiling of the blood in his body, the bulging of the veins, and the depletion of bone marrow potential. Then, he activated the power of disease corrosion to quickly transform the lesions in his body, feeding back into the development progress of bone marrow potential. On the panel, the data in the bone potential line then began to jump. Bone potential, 75% right pointing arrow 76%. Bone potential, 76% right pointing arrow 77%. It wasn't until the number jumped to 80% that it slowly stopped. Jiang Heng did not hesitate to take out the second bottle of Type 2 accelerated regeneration serum that Pei Yu had sent and swallowed it again. Time flew by, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Hongmen cleanup operation in Yukon district had come to an end, and from then on, there was no longer any Hongmen force in the entire Yukon district. The interrogation department's interrogation of Stone Buddha Pang Long was still ongoing, but Pang Long's mouth was very hard, and he had not opened his mouth. And after Jiang Heng took several bottles of accelerated regeneration serum, his bone potential had already entered the limit of 90%. In the following 2 days, in order to prevent the 4th-level martial artists in Hongmen from targeting him, Jiang Heng simply no longer lived in the guard room. Instead, he directly found a room in the Wuhan Bureau to retreat and fully absorb the 6 grams of flame breath energy essence in the jade box. Until late at night on the 3rd day, he finally entered the 4th level of body refinement. Chapter 89 Promotion. In a martial arts room within the Wuhan Bureau of Yukon District, Jiang Heng sat cross-legged on the smooth, clean alloy floor, his tall and sturdy body surface rippling with strands of qi, as fine as hair. At his chest, an inch away from his heart, swirled a vortex the size of a fist, constantly absorbing the surrounding qi and channeling it into his heart. Unlike the passive breakthroughs from body refinement level 1 to level 3, breaking through to body refinement level 4 required the martial artist to actively break through the barrier, tempering the bioenergy stored in the skin, muscles, and bone marrow into their own blood. The more bioenergy one could mobilize within their body, the greater the strength the blood cells could withstand, the easier it would be to temper the bioenergy into the blood cells. However, if the blood cells were not of a high enough grade, or the mobilization rate of bioenergy in the body was too low, or even if there were errors in the tempering method, or even due to luck, failure could occur. Once failed, the blood cells in the body would suffer a significant amount of damage. The success rate for ordinary level 3 peak martial artists was no more than 10%. As for Jiang Heng, he had deliberately failed several times during the day. His purpose was to test whether he could use this method to further enhance the strength of his blood cells. Only after he had pushed the overall strength of the blood cells in his body to the point where his own bioenergy could hardly break through them did he stop. Then he officially began to attempt to break through to body refinement level 4. The concentration of qi in the vortex at his chest continuously increased, flowing into his heart. The heart, as the body's blood-pumping organ, was also the most suitable place to temper blood. At this moment, it was constantly integrating bioenergy into each pump of blood. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of his heartbeat was like a drum, echoing clearly in the martial arts room. The blood flowing within Jiang Heng's body became increasingly heavy, under the continuous tempering and eruption of bioenergy, until it emitted a faint red glow, penetrating the skin and muscles, radiating outwards. The body refinement level data on the panel also jumped accordingly. Body refinement level, 3.99 right pointing arrow 4.0. Huff. The solidified qi, like strands of hair, that surged around Jiang Heng gradually receded, and the red glow emanating from his body surface also gradually converged back into his body. He opened his eyes, and a hint of the pressure belonging to body refinement level 4 flashed in his eyes, then quickly subsided, returning to calmness. Upon entering body refinement level 4, one's own blood becomes a vessel for bioenergy, causing the bioenergy in the skin and muscles to converge inward, merging into the blood and qi. If one does not actively release their aura, it is impossible to tell that they have already entered body refinement level 4. Jiang Heng stood up and stretched his body, which had hardly moved in the past few days. His bones immediately emitted slight cracking sounds, and every inch of muscle, containing immense power, slowly relaxed. Finally broke through to body refinement level 4. Jiang Heng stood in place, silently feeling the changes in his strength at this moment. His basic muscle strength and nerve reaction speed had only slightly improved, without much change. The biggest change was the amount of bioenergy he could control within his body, which had increased about fivefold compared to before. Such a large amount of bioenergy. With a thought, Jiang Heng's bioenergy quickly gathered into qi, wrapping around his legs. The next moment, his body soared into the air. As expected, I can fly. Although it was only a very reluctant levitation, with his initial mastery of qi at body refinement level 4, it was difficult to control direction and speed, and to ascend to a high altitude, it was still a rather interesting effect. As for actual combat power, Jiang Heng naturally could not test it in the martial arts room of the Wuhan Bureau. Otherwise, it would only take a few breaths to completely demolish the entire building. He took out his phone, opened the Wuhan Bureau account, and glanced at his current merit points. Merit points, 3040. Accumulated merit points, 244,200. Previously, buying 6 grams of Yanqi energy essence from Bureau Chief Zhang had already consumed almost all of the merit points in his hand. As for the merit points for capturing Peng Long, since the interrogation department had not yet pried open Peng Long's mouth, this portion of merit points had not yet been issued. However, the accumulated merit points, plus those from capturing Ding Yan, Mo Sanyang, and Peng Kuiyan of the Snake Fang group during this period, had now reached 240,000. This had already exceeded the merit points required for promotion to the rank of third-class sergeant. Jiang Heng thought for a moment, then pushed open the door of the martial arts room and went to the cafeteria to replenish his hunger. After eating a meal until dawn, Jiang Heng, having filled his stomach, waited for Zhang Yunliang to come to work before arriving at the bureau chief's office and knocking on the door. Bureau chief. Zhang Yunliang had just arrived at the office, opened his thermos cup and was about to pour out a sip of tea when he saw Jiang Heng coming, his gaze suddenly filled with doubt. Xiao Zhang, why are you so early? I have something to discuss with you. What is it? Tell me. Zhang Yunliang responded with a smile. He had been in a very good mood these past few days. The Wuhan Bureau of Yukon District had finally overthrown the mountain of Hongmen during his term, which was also a very important achievement in his political resume. When he no longer held a position in the Wuhan Bureau in the future and was transferred to the administrative line, his military rank and position might have a chance to be raised further. The way to improve military rank on the administrative line is naturally different from the front line. It tends to favor qualifications and political achievements. Therefore, he became increasingly pleasing to Jiang Heng, the greatest contributor who helped him overthrow Hongmen. He even really wanted to introduce his niece, Qingluan, to Jiang Heng. Jiang Heng said, Bureau Chief, I have just broken through to body refinement level 4, and my accumulated merit points have also exceeded 200,000. The smile on Zhang Yunliang's face faltered slightly. He had broken through to body refinement level 4. He opened his mouth, intending to ask something, but after thinking about it, he still didn't ask. He was afraid that after asking clearly, he would feel even more uncomfortable. Zhang Yunliang entered the Wuhan Bureau at the age of 18. Before the age of 35, regardless of wind or rain, he always insisted on diligently practicing every day, never slackening. So many years of cold and heat had passed, and now that he was almost 50 years old, he was still stuck at the peak of level 3. And if nothing unexpected happened, he would remain at this realm forever. Now, seeing that Jiang Heng was only 18 years old and his realm had already surpassed his own, the feeling in his heart was conceivable. Zhang Yunliang sighed helplessly. If you want to be promoted, I can't make the decision. Wait a moment, I will directly contact Bureau Chief Wang for you. Okay. Jiang Heng nodded. Zhang Yunliang picked up his phone and dialed a number. Hello, Bureau Chief Wang, this is Xiao Zhang. I have something I want to report to you. Do you still remember that team leader under me before? Yes, Jiang Heng. He has now broken through to body refinement level 4, and his accumulated merit points are also sufficient, so I came over to ask you, what do you think? Zhang Yunliang listened for a long time, then nodded. Okay, I will let him come over right away. After speaking, he hung up the phone and looked up at Jiang Heng again. Xiao Zhang, Bureau Chief Wang wants you to go to the headquarters to see him directly. He wants to meet you. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, then nodded. Okay, then Bureau Chief, I will take my leave first. Okay, go ahead. Chapter 90 Tianfu Selection Quota. Jiang Heng left the director's office and then drove to the Wuhan General Bureau in the city center. The Wuhan General Bureau was still the same as before, occupying a vast area, as if it were a military camp. After registering his identity at the front desk, and under the guidance of the front desk staff, Jiang Heng walked through a metal corridor, passed through a huge, alloy-paved square, and soon found the office of Wang Jinglin, the director of the Wuhan General Bureau. Knock, knock, knock. Director Wang, I am Jiang Heng from the Yukon District Wuhan Detachment. Come in. Wang Jinglin's slightly aged voice came from inside the door. Jiang Heng pushed the door open and entered. The small office was quite empty, with white walls on all sides, a desk on the left, and some documents piled on the bookshelf on the right. Other than that, there was nothing else. Wang Jinglin was sitting behind the desk, looking up at Jiang Heng. This was the first time Jiang Heng had seen the creator of the Nanjiang City Wuhan Bureau in person. Director Wang. Hello. Wang Jinglin's hair and beard were all white, but his complexion was still very healthy, not at all like an old man in his 70s or 80s, but rather like a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s with dyed white hair. Even though Jiang Heng had already entered the 4th level of physical body, he still couldn't seem to sense the upper limit of the old man's strength. At this moment, Wang Jinglin looked at Jiang Heng with a slightly scrutinizing gaze, and then slowly smiled and said, You've broken through to the 4th level of physical body. Yes, show it off a little. Jiang Heng was slightly stunned, then nodded and said, Okay. After saying that, he no longer restrained the bioenergy contained in his blood, and the vast aura belonging to the 4th level of physical body suddenly enveloped the director's office. The air in the office seemed to freeze, and even the dust floating in the air seemed to be fixed in place. Wang Jinglin's brows then slowly relaxed, and he nodded slightly. Not bad, it is indeed the 4th level of physical body. Jiang Heng dissipated the aura on his body and restrained the bioenergy that permeated the surroundings. Wang Jinglin pondered slightly, then said, Your current physical body level and accumulated merits have both met the standards. In the next 2 days, I will submit your information to the Tianfu Wuhan Department to help you apply for a promotion to the rank of 3rd level sergeant, as for the division of responsibilities. Wang Jinglin paused slightly. Pan Rufeng from the 13th Detachment was transferred to the military department for training. The position of captain of the 13th Detachment is currently vacant. Originally, I planned to disband it and divide it into other detachments, but since you're here. He looked up at Jiang Heng. Do you have any intention of taking over this detachment? Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, thought for a while, and then nodded. I have no problem with that. The overall quality of the General Bureau's detachments is indeed much higher than that of the Branch Bureau's detachments. With his current strength of the 4th level of physical body, he can naturally suppress the members of the detachment. And the most important thing is that becoming the captain of the General Bureau's detachment has one advantage. The scope of law enforcement covers the entire city, and there is no longer any concept of jurisdiction. That is to say, Jiang Heng's future law enforcement scope will no longer be limited to Yukon District. In the entire Nanjiang City, as long as there is enough evidence, he can investigate anyone. Wang Jinglin nodded and smiled kindly. Well, do a good job. I have seen your contributions during this period. Strive to eradicate Hongmen as soon as possible. Eradicate Hongmen. Jiang Heng looked up at Wang Jinglin and expressed his doubts that had been in his mind all along. General Bureau, Hongmen's leader, Lin Zhenan, should only be at the peak of the 4th level, right? If the Wuhan department sends a powerhouse at the 5th level of physical body, they should be able to easily destroy Hongmen. Why bother so much? This was also Jiang Heng's doubt all along. Tianfu Provincial City would never lack warriors above the 4th level of physical body, and even Wang Jinglin in front of him, Jiang Heng was 80% sure that he was a 5th level warrior. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to develop the Wuhan Bureau step by step to this point in the face of Hongmen's pursuit and interception for so many years. Then why bother so much to deal with a Hongmen whose leader is only at the peak of the 4th level? He had asked Zhang Yunliang this question before, but he did not get a specific answer. Wang Jinglin smiled kindly and explained. Have you ever thought about a question? Hongmen has only prospered in Nanjing City for 50 years. Then who controlled Nanjing City 50 years before that? Jiang Heng was slightly stunned, then understood. The establishment of the World United Government 100 years ago was barely pieced together under the pressure of Tianmen. The newly established World United Government was just an empty shell. The division and riots of local forces continued to prevail. It was not until 50 years ago that General Tian established the Wuhan Department and gradually developed and grew, that he began to gradually clear away the local separatist forces. And the development and growth of Hongmen in Nanjing City is only a matter of the last 50 years. If we go back another 50 years, there must be a real controller behind the scenes in Nanjing City. Jiang Heng understood. You mean, there are people behind Hongmen, and they are the masterminds controlling Nanjing City. Wang Jinglin shook his head. It's more than just Nanjing City. But you don't have to worry, with me here, they won't dare to take action. At least within the territory of Nanjing City, if those people dare to send warriors above the 5th level of physical body to take action. Then they can't blame the Tianfu Wuhan Department for sending experts to completely sweep through the entire Nanjing City. Jiang Heng nodded thoughtfully. It seems that the two sides have set rules that they are not allowed to use powerhouses above the 5th level of physical body within the territory of Nanjing City. Limiting the action of warriors above the 5th level, the remaining criminal groups like Hongmen can only rely on us. Wang Jinglin stood up, walked to Jiang Heng, and patted him on the shoulder. The latest and most complete novels are available on 69shu.com. This is also to hone and select young powerhouses with both courage and strength in Nanjing City. Jiang Heng nodded thoughtfully. There is no need to mention courage. Those who can climb to high positions in the Wuhan Bureau must be warriors who dare to fight and are willing to take risks. Even Pan Rufeng, the original captain of the 13th Detachment of the General Bureau, although this person acted arrogantly and was proud, he still rushed to the front in performing tasks, and his courage was no less than others. And the same is true for strength. Only with sufficient strength can one make enough contributions in the Wuhan Bureau. Speaking of this, Wang Jinglin seemed to remember something and asked. By the way, have you heard about the Tianfu Wuhan Department's selection quota before? Jiang Heng nodded. I heard about it from Professor Li. Wang Jinglin nodded slightly. Don't underestimate this selection quota. It contains very high value. Even in Tianfu Provincial City, countless young powerhouses are fighting tooth and nail for this quota. It can be said that this quota determines what kind of path you will take in the future. Jiang Heng was still a little puzzled. If the Wuhan Bureau members do not become Tianfu selected students, will they not be able to step into the 5th level of physical body? Wang Jinglin smiled. Of course not. Even if you are not selected, there are still other opportunities to go to the provincial capital and break through to the 5th level of physical body. It's just that the resources obtained through other opportunities are far worse than those of the selected students. There is almost no comparison between the two. Wang Jinglin paused, slightly increased his tone, and emphasized. The purpose of this selection quota is to cultivate young powerhouses who can go to Tianmen, Australia in the future. Jiang Heng was slightly stunned. Tianmen, Australia. According to legend, there is no space for ordinary people to survive in today's Australia. The indigenous people there have either died or relocated. A special energy so strong that it is difficult to imagine covers that land, giving birth to all kinds of rare treasures, attracting top powerhouses from all over the world to compete for them. That is a paradise for warriors, because warriors there can improve their strength at a speed that is unimaginable from the outside world. That is also a hell for warriors, because along with the birth of rare treasures, there are also various weird and unpredictable poisons, pollutions, powerful mutant plants and animals, and countless mutual killings between warriors. Therefore, the mortality rate of warriors in Australia has always remained high, and it is known as the warrior meat grinder. Only the true martial arts powerhouses in the world can survive in this place and grow rapidly. And this selection quota from the Tianfu Wuhan Department is actually established to cultivate such powerhouses. Jiang Heng was suddenly a little moved, and then became curious about the specific selection method of this selection object. Wang Jinglin explained. The basic restrictions are that you must enter the 4th level of physical body before the age of 25, and your military rank must reach 3rd level sergeant. Currently, there are 3 other people in the Nanjing Wuhan Bureau who have met this condition, and they have all entered the middle and late stages of the 4th level. They are Tu Boyu, the captain of the 3rd team, Wei Qihua, the captain of the 7th team, and Guo Yaoji, the captain of the 8th team. Jiang Heng was slightly surprised. So many. He hadn't paid attention before, but now he realized that there were actually 3 warriors in the General Bureau who had broken through to the 4th level of physical body under the age of 25. Wang Jinglin nodded. They have all appeared in recent years. There have been many young powerhouses appearing all over the world in recent years. There weren't so many people in the past. Speaking of this, Wang Jinglin showed a strange smile on his lips and smiled. They plus you, there are a total of 4 people. But the problem is, there is only 1 selection quota in June this year. Chapter 91 Level 4 Breathing Method. Wuhan Main Bureau, Director's Office. Jiang Heng's brow twitched upon hearing this. Only 1 spot, what are the selection criteria? Accumulated merit accounts for half, and strength also accounts for half. Wang Jinglin walked to the window, looking out at the massive sports field. Accumulated merit represents your contributions to the Wuhan Bureau, and also represents whether you are a martial artist who dares to fight. Once you step into the 5th level of physical body and above, you will discover that the higher you go on the path of martial arts, the more important mental fortitude and courage become. Only those who are diligent, brave, and dare to fight to the death have the opportunity to cross the boundaries of physical body levels and step into a higher realm. 100 years ago, Senior Yuan Jinggong, who emerged from Nanjiang City, carved out his own martial arts path from the battlefield, which is the best example. Even in Tianmen, Australia, there are many martial artists who go there not for the resources, but solely to fight and kill other strong individuals, honing themselves. Jiang Heng nodded thoughtfully. The path of martial arts above the 4th level of the physical body emphasizes mental fortitude and courage. As for strength, in June, officials from the Wuhan department responsible for selection and transfer will arrange tests for you. Jiang Heng thought for a moment, curious about the specific situation of the other 3 captains, and directly asked. What are the merit values and strengths of the other 3 captains? Wang Jinglin smiled. Their accumulated merit values are all no less than 300,000, with the highest being Team 3's Captain Tu Boyu, who has exceeded 400,000. As for strength, Wang Jinglin turned his head and glanced at Jiang Heng. Guo Yaoji is at the mid-stage of the 4th level, while Wei Qihua and Tu Boyu have already stepped into the late stage of the 4th level, Tu Boyu. Wang Jinglin's gaze shifted towards the massive sports field outside the window, his chin gently pointing downwards. He's the one down there, he's approaching the peak of the 4th level, and if nothing unexpected happens, he should be able to step into the peak of the 4th level before June this year. Jiang Heng followed Wang Jinglin's gaze and looked downwards. He saw a branch team on the other side of the sports field, assembling in formation. A figure over 2 meters tall, with a buzz cut, was currently staring emotionlessly at the branch team members in front of him. At that moment, as if suddenly sensing someone watching him, he raised his head, his gaze suddenly sweeping towards here. Hundreds of meters away, yet it felt as if he was right in front of him. The oppressive aura of the late stage of the 4th level suddenly descended. Noticing that the source of the gaze came from the director's office, Tu Boyu was slightly stunned, then nodded towards here before retracting his gaze. Wang Jinglin smiled. How is it? He's very strong, right? Tu Boyu and the others, like you, have already obtained Dao Seed fragments. This year's selection and transfer, he should be the most hopeful. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, saying nothing. Wang Jinglin smiled and looked at Jiang Heng. What, are you also confident? Jiang Heng thought to himself. According to Wang Jinglin's statement, this Tianfu selection and transfer spot is crucial for the future path of martial arts. A step slow, every step is slow. If he were to take the path of ordinary advancement, the difficulty of obtaining high-level resources would probably increase exponentially. Therefore, he must fight for this selection and transfer spot. It's February now, and there are still more than 3 months until June. If things go smoothly, it should be enough for him to step into the peak of the 4th level and defeat this Tu Boyu. As for the gap in accumulated merit value, a hint of ferocity appeared in Jiang Heng's eyes. Taking it slow won't work, then he'll have to be ruthless towards those mongrels in Nanjiang City. Thinking of this, he grinned. Then naturally, I still have some confidence. Wang Jinglin smiled somewhat noncommittally upon hearing this. Then I'll look forward to your performance in 3 months. Jiang Heng nodded slightly. Director, if there's nothing else, then I'll take my leave. Wang Jinglin said. Go ahead. By the way, the 4th level breathing technique isn't available in the branch bureau's armory, you can go to Professor Li to collect it. Jiang Heng nodded in response, then left the office. At the end of the corridor, in a laboratory built with alloy. Li Minglang looked at Jiang Heng with some astonishment. I just told you about the Tianfu selection and transfer spot last time, I didn't expect you to have already stepped into the 4th level of the physical body. Jiang Heng said somewhat helplessly. You also told me last time that you could help me apply for a Dao seed. I don't know if there's any progress on that. He had been coveting this Dao seed for a long time. The previous neural network Dao seed fragment still gives him a huge advantage in nerve reaction speed. If he could obtain a complete Dao seed, it would probably greatly enhance his combat power. Li Minglang coughed lightly with some embarrassment, and said seriously. I've already asked for you, they're still in line in the provincial capital, but it should definitely be arranged within a month or two at most. Jiang Heng nodded slightly. A month or two, there are still more than 3 months until the Tianfu Wuan department's selection and transfer spot selection. It'll be fine as long as I can get it before then. Li Minglang asked, you're here to get the 4th level breathing technique, right? Come with me. Jiang Heng nodded, then followed Li Minglang through the corridor to the armory inside the main bureau. Compared to the Yukon branch bureau, this armory is even larger, and the alloy drawers arranged inside are several times more than those of the branch bureau's armory. You were previously practicing the candlelight series breathing technique. Li Minglang muttered. Then, on the left wall, he opened a drawer in the 3rd row, took out a tube of scarlet injection, and came to Jiang Heng. The most uptack new uptack small uptack say uptack is uptack at uptack 6 uptack 9 uptack book uptack bar uptack first uptack hair. Extend your arm. Jiang Heng pulled up his sleeve, allowing Li Minglang to inject this tube of injection into his arm's vein. Li Minglang spoke, slowly explaining. The candlelight breathing technique, as the most suitable breathing technique for fighting, refined on the southern battlefield 100 years ago. The cultivation risk is high, and the cultivation speed is not fast, but it stands out in terms of power alone. 4th level burning blood is among the top tier powers of the 4th level breathing technique abilities. The temperature of the flames it unleashes can reach up to 3000 degrees. 3000 degrees, which is the temperature of industrial ironmaking, capable of easily turning steel into molten iron. Jiang Heng nodded slightly, he had already heard about this. Li Minglang finished injecting the solution in the injection, then removed the needle. Alright, you can go back, don't worry about the Dao seed, I'll help you urge them again. Okay. Jiang Heng nodded, then left the Wuhan main bureau and drove back to Yukon district. The promotion in rank should still take 2 days. He will naturally stay in Yukon district for the next few days. Buzz. At this moment, the phone rang. Jiang Heng glanced at the screen and found that it was an unfamiliar call, and then answered. Hello, is this Captain Jiang of the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau? I am Wang Kong, a member of the Nanjing City Joint Council. A member of the Joint Council. Jiang Heng's heart moved, and then he remembered what this was. Due to the long-term inability of the World United Government to manage local affairs. Therefore, local governments are prone to giving rise to various deformed power structures due to long-term power struggles. Nanjing City is no exception. In addition to the Nanjing City government, there is also a power structure called the Nanjing City Joint Council. The members are all representatives of major capital enterprises in Nanjing City, and can even influence local laws in Nanjing City. What is this person doing looking for me? Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, and then asked, what do you want? Wang Kang's voice came from the other end of the phone. There is a small matter that I would like to discuss with Captain Jiang in person. I am currently in a private room on the 3rd floor of the Diamond Hotel in Yukon District. I wonder if Captain Jiang would be willing to have a meal. Jiang Heng thought slightly. At this time, the news of his breakthrough to the 4th level of the physical body is only known to Zhang Yunliang and Wang Jinglin of the main bureau. This person, and the forces behind this person, certainly don't know. Even if there is danger, it probably won't pose a threat to him now. Then go see what's going on. Thinking of this, Jiang Heng replied, okay. After speaking, he hung up the phone, turned the car around and headed to the Diamond Hotel. Chapter 92 Night Attack. In a private room on the 3rd floor of the hotel, Jiang Heng pushed the door open and entered. A man in a suit was sitting behind the table. He stood up upon seeing Jiang Heng. He pushed up his glasses, exuding an air of an elite. Captain Jiang, hello. You are Wang Kong. Jiang Heng glanced at him, pulled out a chair, sat down casually, and said plainly, get to the point. Wang Kong smiled and said, Captain Jiang is straightforward, so I will be direct as well. I hope Captain Jiang can do me a favor regarding Peng Long, who was arrested by the Wuhan Bureau in Yukon District. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly. You are from Hongmen. Wang Kong shook his head. I have nothing to do with Hongmen, nor am I here to rescue Peng Long. I am here to hope that Captain Jiang will prevent the evidence obtained from Peng Long's mouth from being linked to other companies. Jiang Heng grinned. So, you are from the Jinding Group. Wang Kong did not deny it, his gaze behind his glasses was calm as he said, if Captain Jiang can agree. All the cultivation medicines you need in the future will be covered by the Jinding Group, sponsoring you all the way to the peak of level 4. Our group has always hoped to befriend geniuses in the Wuhan Bureau, and I hope Captain Jiang can do us this honor. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly upon hearing this. From body refinement level 3 to the peak of level 4, the resources consumed by full-force cultivation without regard to cost can reach tens of millions. Quite generous. Jiang Heng said plainly, that won't be necessary. I am more curious about what can be extracted from Peng Long's mouth. Most of the resources on the market are not as good as one transformation of disease erosion for him. Instead of letting the Jinding Group provide him with resources, he would rather break into the Jinding Group and see if there is anything good inside. Upon hearing Jiang Heng's words, Wang Kang's calm gaze turned slightly gloomy, and he said coldly. Captain Jiang, you should think carefully. Going against the United Council is not a wise choice. Captain Jiang should be clear that we can easily cause the entire Yukon district's economy and people's livelihood to completely decline and perish in a short period of time, turning Yukon district into a dead zone. Captain Jiang probably doesn't want to see this kind of thing happen, right? Jiang Heng's gaze calmly converged on him, and suddenly he grinned, revealing a row of white teeth. Are you threatening me? His figure instantly disappeared from the chair. The next second, he appeared behind Wang Kong, and a terrifying pressure instantly descended in the private room. Wang Kong was shocked and horrified. What are you going to do? I am a member of the United Council and have the identity of the United Government. You can't attack me. Hey, who cares about that? Jiang Heng's fan-like hand grabbed his shoulder, lifted him up, his eyes cold and fierce. If he was still the branch captain of Yukon District, he might still have some scruples about this kind of thing. But now he is about to become the branch captain of the General Bureau, and his law enforcement scope is no longer limited to Yukon District. Whoever wants to die, Jiang Heng doesn't mind fulfilling them. The terrifying force instantly crushed Wang Kang's scapula, crushing half of his shoulder. Even though he was also a body refinement level 3 martial artist, he had no resistance under this immense force. Wang Kang's face was twisted in pain, and he wailed, what exactly are you going to do? Jiang Heng looked calm. Bribing the branch captain of the Wuhan Bureau, of course, is to take you back and hand you over to the interrogation department. He lowered his head, smiled, and patted Wang Kang's cheek. Since you are involved with the Jinding Group, you must have done a lot of dirty things. You better pray that you can withstand the interrogation of the interrogation department, otherwise, prepare to die. The interrogation methods of the Wuhan Bureau's interrogation department are naturally not as simple as asking questions. In this era, there is no prohibition on extracting confessions by torture. Various cruel interrogation methods, and even technological products such as truth serums, are the reason why the interrogation department can obtain interrogation results efficiently. Wang Kong obviously knew the power of the Wuhan Bureau's interrogation department and was immediately frightened and pale. He was able to become a member representing the Jinding Group, so he must have done a lot of things for the Jinding Group. Once the Wuhan Bureau finds out, he will definitely end up with a death sentence. Wang Kong hurriedly opened his mouth. Wait. Before he could finish speaking, Jiang Heng grabbed his neck, and the immense force immediately suffocated him and knocked him unconscious. Then Jiang Heng dragged him out of the private room and took him all the way back to the Wuhan Bureau's interrogation department. Give this person a good interrogation and send me the information immediately after you get something out of him. Yes. The interrogation department staff immediately responded. Jiang Heng did not rush to leave, but came to the prison cell where Peng Long was held and glanced at the internal situation. Peng Long's bones were broken all over his body, he was paralyzed on the bed, his whole body was locked by alloy chains, and he stared at the ceiling above his head with a deathly gray face. Jiang Heng pondered slightly. Judging from Wang Kang's attitude, Peng Long obviously knew some secrets about the Jinding Group. It's just that after Peng Long's body was transformed by that special potion from the Jinding Group, the interrogation department's truth serum had little effect on him, so they haven't been able to find out anything these past few days. However, it seems that he shouldn't be able to last long. As for the Jinding Group, Jiang Heng narrowed his eyes slightly as he thought of this. Behind Wang Kong, there must be a real instigator. Since they care so much about this matter, I'm afraid they won't let it go. Maybe they will send someone to the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau to assassinate Peng Long. It would be good to stay in the Wuhan Bureau for a while these days. Thinking of this, Jiang Heng immediately contacted the Internal Affairs Department and asked them to clean out a room in the building next to the dungeon for him to live in. Night fell. Baoshan District. More than 50 meters below the ground. An underground base covering an area of more than 4 football fields is in operation. This is an experimental base secretly built by the Jiang Group, specializing in human experiments and researching various illegal and prohibited drugs. And in a huge laboratory covering an area of 200 square meters in the experimental base. The latest novels are first published on Lu Ju Shu Ba. 5 tall men in black clothes stood upright on the alloy floor, forming a line. The powerful aura belonging to the peak of level 3 enveloped the room. What is special is that the expressions of these 5 people are extremely indifferent, standing motionless in place. Tang Zhenghao, a member of the Jiang Group's board of directors, was standing in front of these 5 black-clothed men, sighing with some heartache. 10 years ago, the Jiang Group began to try to improve martial artists through technological means. The 5 Sword Fang team members in front of them are a group of martial artists cultivated by the Jiang Group over 10 years. They used various means to raise their strength to the peak of level 3. And through various drug brainwashing, they minimized their pain response and emotional fluctuations. These Sword Fang team members are the most perfect death warriors. Tang Zhenghao originally hoped that after a few more years, the group would develop a potion that could steadily improve to body refinement level 4. Then, all the members of this Sword Fang team would be promoted to body refinement level 4 before going to battle. At that time, with so many body refinement level 4 appearing together, the Jiang Group may not be able to replace Hongman's position in Nanjiang City. It's a pity, Pang Long, that idiot, ruined everything. Thinking of this, Tang Zhenghao suddenly felt a little regretful. If he had known earlier, he shouldn't have agreed to Pang Long's conditions and allowed him to leave. Tang Zhenghao originally planned to use Pang Long, this free experimental subject, to test the side effects of court tyrant tardigrade concentrate. Who would have thought that this idiot would be caught by Jiang Heng of the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau less than 2 hours after leaving? If the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau finds out about the existence of this underground laboratory, it will pose an extremely serious threat to the Jiang Group. Therefore, Chairman Shui Bo ordered him to find a way to solve this mess. And the first thing Tang Zhenghao thought of was to let Wang Kong go to negotiate. If the negotiation is successful and that Jiang Heng can be bought off, then this matter will naturally be a joy for everyone, it's just a matter of spending more money. But he didn't expect that Jiang Heng would be so arrogant that he even arrested Wang Kong and put him in jail. The clues must be destroyed. Tang Zhenghao's face was gloomy. He raised his head and looked at Chu Bai, the leader of the 5 Sword Fang team members in front of him. Is the target of this mission clear? Chu Bai, the leader of the Sword Fang team, nodded indifferently. Clear, assassinate Pang Long in the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau dungeon. Only by killing Pang Long will the Wuhan Bureau not discover this underground experimental base. Tang Zhenghao pondered slightly and added, bring Wang Kong back from the prison. No, you can't bring him back, kill him too, he also knows a lot of things. Chu Bai nodded slightly, yes. Tang Zhenghao nodded slightly, then put down the briefcase in his hand, opened it, and revealed the 5 bottles of CT2 Tyrant Tardigrade concentrate in the box. Judging from the previous fight between Jiang Heng and Pang Long, although Jiang Heng of Yukon District is at the peak of level 3, his actual combat power is already more than that. Plus Zhang Yunliang, the director of the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau. Therefore, even if the 5 Sword Fang team members at the peak of level 3 take action together, it is not guaranteed. The strength of these 5 Sword Fang team members must be improved again to have a 100% certainty of completing the mission. This CT2 Tyrant Tardigrade concentrate has a dosage that is 1.5 times that of Pang Long's bottle, and the effect is stronger. It is enough to raise the strength of these Sword Fang team members at the peak of level 3 to the level of pseudo-level 4. The price is that the physical potential of these Sword Fang team members will be completely lost in the future, losing the opportunity to truly break through to body refinement level 4. Drink these bottles of medicine. Yes, the 5 Sword Fang team members each drank the potion. Subsequently, their already tall bodies quickly began to swell. Their eyes were scarlet, their skin was torn, revealing patches of scarlet muscle, and the aura on their bodies was also rising. In just a few minutes, the figures of the 5 Sword Fang team members suddenly rose to 2.5 meters, almost tearing their clothes. A cold and terrifying aura descended in the underground laboratory. Okay, follow me. Tang Zhenghao nodded slightly in satisfaction, a few traces of ferociousness appeared in his eyes. Tonight, let's show the Wuhan Bureau some color. Chapter 93 Arrival. Yuquan District, Wuhan Bureau. A 5-story building not far from the Wuhan Bureau's prison. This was originally one of the residences for the Wuhan Bureau's stationed members, so there were many empty rooms. Under the arrangement of the Internal Affairs section, Jiang Heng lived in a quiet and spacious bedroom on the top floor. After spending 2 hours watching the cultivation tutorial videos and reading the text version of the level 4 breathing method, Jiang Heng turned off his phone, then took out the jade box from his pocket and opened the lid. At this moment, of the 6 grams of flame breath energy essence in the jade box, only 2 grams remained. In order to break through to the 4th level of the physical body these past few days, he had been cultivating the candle flame breathing method day and night, consuming 4 grams of flame breath energy essence. The remaining 2 grams probably wouldn't last long. Jiang Heng picked up a rice grain-sized crystal, glanced at it, and then put it in his mouth. I wonder if this energy crystal will still be effective after I reach the 4th level. Jiang Heng was a little worried. If his body's resistance to flame breath greatly increased after he reached the 4th level of the physical body, then a mere few grams of flame breath energy crystal would probably not be enough for him to use. Jiang Heng refocused his thoughts and began to breathe and meditate according to the cultivation method described in the video, drawing on the flame breath from the outside world and his tongue, integrating it into his flesh and blood, and quenching his qi and blood. The main function of the level 4 breathing method had already shifted from strengthening the cells throughout the body to quilien the blood in the body. Normally, with the cultivation of the breathing method, the strength of the blood in the body would gradually increase, changing from iron blood to silver blood, and even to mercury blood. However, there were also considerable risks in this process. Blood cells are, after all, just human cells. Although they have been strengthened by bioenergy and are very different from normal human blood cells, they will gradually develop a risk of damage if they continuously absorb special energy. Especially like Jiang Heng, who directly put a gram of special energy essence in his mouth and held it for cultivation. Flame breath energy is eroding the blood. Time passed slowly, and the majestic flame breath energy was drawn out from the crystal, constantly quiliening the blood throughout the body through the blood vessels and meridians. The scorching aura also continued to spread out from his body, causing the temperature in the entire room to rise constantly. The meridians and blood vessels on the surface of the skin turned into a piece of crimson, as if a crimson net enveloped Jiang Heng's entire body. He slowly opened his eyes, and a large number of blood cells in his body were greatly damaged under the impact of the flame breath energy. Current state: severe flame breath damage to blood cells, mild biological motor dysfunction. That's about enough. He spat out the energy essence in his mouth, then looked at the content of the crystal. Only a faint red color remained in the nearly blank and transparent crystal. Now it takes 1 gram of flame breath energy essence for 1 cultivation session, which is twice as much as before, but fortunately, it's still within an acceptable range. Jiang Heng slowly nodded, then his mind moved. Disease erosion, conversion. The gentle and mysterious power of disease erosion flowed and integrated into his body, flowing along the blood vessels and meridians. The blood cells that were originally fragmented under the impact of flame breath energy were restored to their original state and became even stronger. The bioenergy content in the blood and the overall cell strength of the body have been improved to varying degrees. Various experiences and insights about the level 4 candle flame breathing method constantly flooded into his mind. After a few breaths, Jiang Heng dispersed the power of disease erosion, and the crimson net covering the surface of his skin had disappeared without a trace. He opened the panel. Physical body level, 4.00 right pointing arrow 4.03. Cultivation method, candle flame series level 4 breathing method proficiency 0.01% right pointing arrow 5.12%. The physical body level has increased by 0.03, and the proficiency of the breathing method has increased by a little over 5%. 1 gram of flame breath energy essence increases it by 0.03. The corner of Jiang Heng's eye twitched slightly, so expensive. Calculated in this way, if he wants to improve his physical body level solely by relying on flame breath energy essence. From level 4.0 to level 4.99, it will cost at least 300,000 merit points. He shook his head helplessly. Forget it, expensive is expensive, no one else can improve their strength so quickly. 1 cultivation session can improve the physical body strength by 0.03. Which is a cultivation speed that is enough to make many martial artists envious. What is a mere expenditure of a little merit value? He looked up at the sky outside the window, and at this time, night had just fallen. He thought for a while, then looked down at the last flame breath energy essence in the jade box. Tisk, keeping it is also keeping it. Let's continue. Let's see if I can improve the proficiency of the level 4 breathing method to the entry level in one breath. As long as the proficiency of the level 4 candle flame breathing method is raised to more than 10%, he can successfully cast the 4th order burning blood. The 4th order burning blood is the top level among breathing methods of the same level in terms of fighting, enough to improve his actual combat power by a notch. Jiang Heng put the last flame breath energy essence in the jade box into his mouth. Continue to cultivate the candle flame breathing method. After a few more hours, he once again converted the flame breath lesions in his body, increasing his physical body level and the proficiency of the candle flame breathing method. Physical body level 4.03 right pointing arrow 4.06. Cultivation method, candle flame series level 4 breathing method proficiency 10%. It's done. Jiang Heng stood up and nodded in satisfaction. The candle flame breathing method has reached the entry level, enough to cast the 4th order burning blood. With a thought, he pushed the door open and went out, preparing to find an open and unmanned place to try it out. The night is dark. The latest novel is on 69shu.com. Yukon District Center is brightly lit, with vehicles coming and going. The February cold wind swept across the entire Nanjing city, and a light rain during the day had now frozen on the ground. The Yukon District Wuhan Bureau, which occupies a large area, stands in the center of Yukon District, like a silent mountain in defense. And a 5-story building rooftop 3 kilometers away from the Wuhan Bureau. The winter cold wind whistled in the sky, drilling into the collars of several people on the rooftop like a knife. However, several people were unmoved. They could hardly feel the biting cold wind on their bodies, only as if the spring breeze was blowing on their faces. Tang Zhenghao of the Jinding group, wearing a black windbreaker, looked coldly at the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau building at the end of his line of sight. In order to prevent the Hongmen masters from attacking some time ago, the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau deployed many cameras around, and they have not been removed yet. So they can only temporarily settle in this kind of residential building 3 kilometers away. Behind him, 5 saber-tooth team members over 2.5 meters tall stood in a row in the shadows at this moment. Tang Zhenghao picked up his phone and dialed a number. Hello, Chairman, I want to confirm one more thing. In Yukon District, are you sure there are no martial artists at the 4th level of the physical body? Shui Bo's voice came from the other end of the phone. No discovery. It is impossible for the Wuhan headquarters to suddenly send a 4th level physical body to Yukon District. You can rest assured to do things. Tang Zhenghao nodded slightly. With the strictness of the defense within the Wuhan Bureau, it is impossible for the saber-tooth team to sneak in and kill Peng Long. It must be against the martial force within the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau. With the current strength of the 5 members of the saber-tooth team, as long as there are no martial artists at the 4th level of the physical body, they will definitely be able to complete the task within 5 minutes and then leave. Even if the Wuhan headquarters wants to support, it must be too late at this time. Tang Zhenghao hung up the phone, turned his head and looked at the 5 members of the saber-tooth team behind him. At this moment, the effect of CT2 Tyrant Water Bear Concentrate has been fully exerted on several people. In the knotted and bulging muscles, every inch contains extremely large bioenergy. Tang Zhenghao slowly said, this time the goal is to kill Peng Long in the Wuhan Bureau's dungeon. But in addition to Peng Long, try not to kill people, especially the director of the Wuhan Bureau and the other team leaders. The Jinding group is different from the Hongmen, they do not have the capital to compete with the Wuhan Bureau. The Wuhan headquarters may not necessarily care about small troubles. If you really dare to kill the director of the Wuhan branch, I'm afraid the fangs of the Wuhan headquarters will open to the Jinding group tonight and tear them to pieces. Chu Bai, the captain of the saber-tooth team, nodded slightly, with a hint of confidence in his eyes. I understand. At this moment, Chu Bai only felt that his combat power was unprecedentedly powerful. He even felt, even if a martial artist at the 4th level of the physical body came, he might not be unable to fight. As for the few ordinary 3rd level peaks in the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau, they are naturally impossible to be his opponents. It is nothing more than needing to control some strength and not completely beat people to death. Not to mention that in addition to him, there are his 4 team members who will take action together. This mission is already 100% sure. Tang Zhenghao nodded slowly, looked down at the time, and said, go, complete the mission within 5 minutes, and then evacuate. Yes. The 5 members of the saber-tooth team responded in unison, and then the huge figures jumped off the rooftop, turning into 5 black shadows, and crashed into the street. Amidst the screams of passers-by and the screeching of car brakes on the street, they ran wildly towards the Wuhan bureau. Amidst the screams of passers-by and the screeching of car brakes on the street, they ran wildly towards the Wuhan bureau. Chapter 94, Blast. Buzz. The buzzing of the emergency communicator instantly woke Zhang Yunliang from his sleep. He immediately picked up the emergency communicator, and the voice of the liaison officer came from the other side. Director, there are 5 martial artists suspected to be at level 3 or higher approaching the Wuhan bureau rapidly. What? Zhang Yunliang was shocked, and then immediately said, activate the alarm. Yes. The next moment, a piercing alarm that resounded throughout the entire Wuhan bureau and spread for several kilometers instantly sounded. This was the Wuhan bureau's level 1 alarm, representing that the Wuhan bureau was under a huge threat, mobilizing all Wuhan bureau members. While speaking, Zhang Yunliang's figure had already rushed out of the room, and in a few breaths, he arrived at the gate of the Wuhan bureau. In less than a minute, the 5 figures had crossed several kilometers and were about to kill Zhang Yunliang. A majestic and overwhelming aura swept over him. Zhang Yunliang's face stiffened. These people were all peak level 3, no, some are even stronger than peak level 3. How could the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau suddenly suffer such a surprise attack? There was no time to think. In the midst of the piercing alarm sound in the entire Wuhan Bureau, Zhang Yunliang glared angrily and directly faced the 5 people in front of him. Regardless of the purpose of these people, as the director of the Yukon District Wuhan Branch Bureau, he naturally couldn't let these people rush into the Wuhan Bureau. HMPH. Chu Bai, who was rushing in the front, sneered, and in a breath, metallic patterns appeared on the surface of his body, covering his entire body. The profound gold art practiced by the Sword Tooth Squad can cover the skin surface with a layer of metal transformed from Jiang metal energy. It can not only defend, but also be transformed into a weapon to kill enemies. Layers of liquid-like metal covered Chu Bai's fist peaks, turning his right fist into a heavy hammer, and slammed towards Zhang Yunliang, who was Ying Mian Lai. Boom! Zhang Yunliang's face turned pale, his figure retreated violently, and his feet plowed 2 deep marks on the ground, crashing into the building. Chu Bai's movements were also stagnated because of this. The other 4 Sword Tooth Squad members quickly passed him and killed towards the interior of the Wuhan Bureau. Chu Bai said, "You go in and complete the mission, I will stop the other members of the Wuhan Bureau." Yes. The 4 Sword Tooth Squad members were like 4 black thunderbolts, smashing through the outer wall of the Wuhan Bureau building and killing into it. Chu Bai stood alone in front of the gate of the Wuhan Bureau. He calmly looked at Zhang Yunliang, who got up from the ground, and the Wuhan Bureau members who were Yang Lai from all directions, and an arrogant smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth. As a death warrior cultivated and transformed by Jinding Group at a heavy cost, his pain and personal emotions have been reduced to a certain limit. For the Sword Tooth Squad members, only fighting and killing, and crushing the enemy, can bring them some joy and satisfaction. Chu Bai's left and right hands turned into 2 Jiang metal heavy hammers, and a few scarlet flashes appeared in his eyes. Come on, let me see how strong you are. ... The 4 Sword Tooth Squad members had already memorized the location of the Wuhan Bureau's dungeon. At this moment, they did not care about the walls in the middle, and zhuang sui every wall in front of them, and killed towards the dungeon. The members of the Wuhan Bureau could not even keep up with the figures of these 4 Sword Tooth Squad members, let alone stop them. In a short time, the 4 Sword Tooth Squad members had already arrived at the entrance of the dungeon, hong sui the 3-centimeter thick iron door, and quickly rushed into the dungeon. The entire dungeon was a long corridor, with cells arranged side by side on both sides of the corridor. There were also several Jiao Cha intersections in the front, and a staircase at the end, with a total of 2 floors and nearly 100 cells. At this time, the Wuhan Bureau had just pulled a batch of death row prisoners out to be shot, and the interior of the dungeon was quite empty, with not many prisoners inside. Several Sword Tooth Squad members looked at each other, and then immediately dispersed to find the Zongji of Peng Long and Wang Kong. Step. The footsteps of one of the Sword Tooth Squad members who was running at high speed paused slightly, and his eyes locked on a cell. Peng Long, whose limbs were Duan, had already noticed the movement outside in the cell. Seeing the other party stop in front of his cell, a glimmer of hope suddenly appeared in his muddy and almost Dian Quang eyes. Could it be that he is here to save me? However, the next moment, the cold eyes of the Sword Tooth Squad member shattered his fantasy. No, he is not here to save me, he is here to kill me. Gay. The Jiang metal energy covered by the palm of the Sword Tooth Squad member turned into a metal blade, easily keyed on the cell door, and mercilessly slashed at Peng Long. Peng Long looked at the rapidly fanged blade in front of him, and a glimmer of despair could not help but appear in his eyes. Bang! A deafening roar exploded. A black shadow appeared almost instantly beside the sword-tooth squad member, and the heavy right leg turned into a long whip, and Hong ran smashed on the waist of the sword-tooth squad member. The waist of this sword-tooth squad member, as thick as a bucket, with muscles that were tangled like tree roots and covered with thick metal, suddenly sank softly like a water wave, and then like kai to both sides, Jili Po sway. The majestic force Hong sway the ribs and Nian sway the internal organs. Before this sword-tooth squad member could react, his entire vision turned over, and his body smashed through several cells, Tu shui dao fei. Peng Long was stunned, and the eyes that had fallen into despair finally lit up again. The man just now was here to kill me, so this one shouldn't be. He Jian Nan lifted his head, his eyes filled with a glimmer of longing. Are you here to save me? Save you? The inexplicably familiar voice made Peng Long feel a little budui jin. The next moment, the figure walked out of the darkness in the corridor, revealing a face that made Peng Long despair. It was Jiang Heng. Jiang Heng was a little mo ming chi miao when he heard Peng Long's words and glanced at him. Who wants to save you? I'm still waiting to see you go to the execution ground. He then ignored the utterly despairing Peng Long and swept his gaze around. Jiang Heng had originally planned to go outside the Martial Security Bureau to find a secluded place to test the power of the fourth stage blood ignition. After all, with his current combat power, if he tried it within the Martial Security Bureau, the destructive power would be too great, and he would probably easily demolish the Martial Security Bureau. As a result, he hadn't gone far when he heard the alarm sound ringing in the Martial Security Bureau. So he immediately rushed back and caught up with the few people who were rampaging through the Martial Security Bureau. At this moment, the huge commotion inside the dungeon quickly attracted the remaining 3 members of the Sword-Tooth Squad. The newest novels are first published on 69shu.com. Jiang Heng's eyes swept over the few people, their deformed muscles and strangely tall bodies, and he had a clue about their origins. Hey, Golden Cauldron Group, huh? He took a step forward, and the iron-blooded energy in his body surged through his meridians, and the powerful aura unique to the 4th level of the physical body instantly enveloped the entire dungeon. The 3 members of the Sword-Tooth Squad who were attacking him paused slightly, and were taken aback. 4th level of the physical body. Didn't they say that there was no 4th level of the physical body in the Jade Spring District Martial Security Bureau? Before the 3 could react, Jiang Heng stepped on and shattered the alloy floor of the dungeon corridor, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he had already appeared in front of one of the Sword-Tooth Squad members, and the strong wind was like a knife, whistling and tearing at his face. The Sword-Tooth Squad member's expression changed slightly, and the Zheng metal energy flowed around his body and turned into a heavy shield nearly half a foot thick, trying to block Jiang Heng's attack. Jiang Heng twisted his waist and spun his body, and dozens of energy paths in his body operated simultaneously, and a simple and unpretentious straight punch easily crushed the heavy shield and pierced through the chest of this Sword-Tooth Squad member. The energy that a 4th level physical body martial artist can mobilize is at least 5 times that of a 3rd level martial artist. This huge gap in energy brings about the most direct crushing of strength. Even if these Sword-Tooth Squad members used CT2 Tyrant Water Bear Concentrate to increase their physical strength to the 4th level. But the difference in biological energy still exists. The heavy shield shattered, turning into Zheng metal energy like a blade, and drawing cracks on the surrounding ground and walls. A large amount of blood spurted out from behind, splashing on the rear wall like a rainstorm. A bowl-sized hole had already appeared in the chest of this Sword-Tooth Squad member, and Jiang Heng's fist pierced through his back. He opened his mouth, but what overflowed from his throat was blood. Jiang Heng retracted his fist, and his body crashed to the ground. The remaining 2 members of the Sword-Tooth Squad had already retreated from the dungeon without hesitation at this moment and ran wildly outwards. Reducing emotional reactions to the lowest level does not mean that they have no emotions. Moreover, even judging from reason, the appearance of the 4th level of the physical body in the dungeon means that their mission can already be regarded as a failure. At this time, preserving their own strength and evacuating as soon as possible is the right way. Want to escape? Jiang Heng looked at the direction the 2 were fleeing, his eyes slightly cold, and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Main entrance of the Martial Security Bureau. At this time, the entire building was already showing signs of crumbling. In addition to Zhang Yunliang, Huo Jiyang, Wang Siheng and Duan Zhenyu had all arrived at the scene. However, even if these people besieged at the same time, they could not do anything to Chu Bai at all. The metal skin transformed from the Jiang metal energy on Chu Bai's body was like an extremely hard armor, which could easily resist their attacks. But they couldn't stop Chu Bai's attack at all. In less than a minute, Zhang Yunliang's mouth was bleeding, Huo Jiang's arm was fractured, and the injuries on the other two were equally serious. Duan Zhenyu gritted his teeth. If this continues, I'm afraid. He hadn't finished speaking. Two members of the Sword-Tooth Squad rushed out from inside the Martial Security Bureau, and actually directly bypassed the crowd and quickly ran towards the distance. Chu Bai was slightly stunned and had not yet reacted when he heard one of the fleeing team members anxiously say to him, "Team leader, leave quickly, there is a 4th-level physical body inside the Martial Security Bureau." What? Chu Bai was shocked. Immediately afterwards, he saw a young figure suddenly appear. It was Jiang Heng, the captain of the 4th Squad of the Martial Security Bureau. He has actually stepped into the 4th level of the physical body. Before Chu Bai could recover, Jiang Heng's figure was like thunder, quickly approaching him. In the blink of an eye, the distance between the two was less than 10 meters, and there was no room for retreat. Chu Bai was shocked, and then made a decision without hesitation. His eyes instantly became ferocious. "I don't believe it, what's there to fear even if it's the 4th level of the physical body? Die for me." Chu Bai's breathing was hyperventilating, his shoulder blades trembled, and the Jiang metal energy was activated to strengthen his skin, muscles, and bones. In an instant, his shoulders and back were like cast steel armor, and the knuckles of his fists protruded 3 inches. When his body turned, it seemed as if there was a sound of gold and stone cracking. Soldiers kill art white tiger jumping stream. Jiang Heng's eyes moved slightly when he saw this. While moving forward, his right arm pulled back like drawing a 1,000-pound bow. The iron-blooded energy in his body surged like a gurgling spring, and in a blink of an eye, it differentiated into dozens of paths, and finally converged on the fist peak of his arm, like a mountain torrent erupting. Remnant ape first form collapsing mountain and splitting river. The moment the fists collided, Chu Bai's arm shattered and collapsed like clay, and then, a wave-like force was transmitted to his chest. The skin and muscles collapsed heavily like mountains, and the blood vessels and meridians broke inch by inch like rivers. This body that the people of the Martial Security Bureau could not do anything to was shattered by Jiang Heng's punch in just one face-to-face encounter. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 95 End. Yukon District, Center. The plaza in front of the Wuhan Bureau had been reduced to rubble. Under Jiang Heng's devastating, mountain-shattering river-breaking attack, Chu Bai's body shattered inch by inch, flying backward and crashing into the rubble of the plaza. A violent roar, like a bomb exploding, echoed across the plaza, churning up mud dragons from the already shattered ground. Sway stone dust shot straight into the sky, shrouding the sky above the entire plaza in a cloud of dust. The atmosphere in front of the Wuhan Bureau instantly fell silent. Apart from Zhang Yunliang, who already knew Jiang Heng's strength, Duan Zhenyu and the others looked astonished. They looked at Jiang Heng's back, who was still standing in place, and then at Chu Bai, who was buried deep underground in the plaza, his body shattered. The power of this punch, this is, body refinement level 4. Jiang Heng didn't care about the gazes of the people around him, his eyes swept over Chu Bai, who was buried deep underground in the plaza, and after confirming that he was dead. His gaze locked onto the remaining 2 Sword Fang members who were frantically running away. At this moment, the 2 Sword Fang members had already run far away, and were about to disappear into the crowd scattering in all directions. With a thought, Jiang Heng ignited his blood energy again, using 4th-order blood burning. Hundreds of muscles all over his body bulged and stretched under the rapid flow of blood energy, and blue veins emerged under his skin like earthworms. Strands of energy, as thick as pythons, surged out from various parts of his upper body. The high temperature, exceeding 2,500 degrees, burned Jiang Heng's uniform on his upper body to ashes in just a breath. He took a step forward. The ground beneath his feet instantly cracked like a spider web, and his figure disappeared from the spot. The sharp sound of air being torn apart shattered the silence above the street. The 2 Sword Fang members, who were fleeing towards the outside, heard the sound of air being torn behind them. A chill ran down their spines, they exchanged a glance, and immediately wanted to split up, fleeing in 2 different directions. The next moment, a figure suddenly appeared above them. The soaring flames spread out from under his feet, casting a devilish shadow, engulfing the 2 like demons. The high temperature, almost capable of melting steel, enveloped them. The metallic patterns covering the bodies of the 2 Sword Fang members melted like candles at a speed visible to the naked eye. A shrill scream instantly pierced the night sky. The flames seemed to possess their own intelligence, tearing and drilling into their limbs like swimming snakes, turning them into charcoal. Jiang Heng landed, his eyes swept over the miserable appearance of the two in front of him, and he nodded slightly. The intensity of the flame breath of fourth-order blood burning is indeed good. He took 2 steps forward, grabbed the necks of the two who had just fled, and dragged them back. The night was deep. Half of the facade of building number 1 of the Wuhan Bureau had been reduced to rubble. Zhang Yunliang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood up with Duan Zhenyu's support. Lv Zhehai, Chen Yao, Fang Hai, and Qinan, Hu Zhenggong, and others, hundreds of Wuhan Bureau members. The moment the alarm sounded, they rushed to the scene in a hurry. But the battle between such powerful individuals was naturally not something they could interfere with. They could only hide in the distance. Watching those team leaders, who were usually invincible and unstoppable, being easily suppressed by a strange man in black. The call for help to the Wuhan headquarters had already been made at the first moment. But given the distance from Yukon district to the headquarters in the city center, even if the support was fast, it would take at least half an hour to arrive. By then, I'm afraid the bodies of the director and several team leaders would have already turned cold. But who would have thought that Jiang Heng's appearance would, with one move? Jiang Heng stepped onto the ruins of the plaza, and the soaring flames transformed by the energy behind him gradually dissipated. He was still carrying the corpses of the 2 attackers who had just fled. The eyes of the Wuhan Bureau members silently converged on him. Jiang Heng didn't care, he casually threw the 2 corpses on the ground and walked to Zhang Yunliang. "Director, are you alright?" Cough, I'm fine." Zhang Yunliang waved his hand. "Thanks to you, otherwise we would have been in serious trouble this time. These people who came this time should all be from the Jinding group, wanting to kill Peng Long and destroy the evidence." "Jinding group." Zhang Yunliang nodded slightly, and looked around. "Don't be dazed, cheer up, Team 1 and Team 2 disperse and guard to prevent anyone from attacking. Team 3 clears the rubble, collects the bodies, and hands them over to the interrogation section." "Yes." All the nearby Wuhan Bureau members then began to work as a team, and Jiang Heng and others then returned to the Wuhan Bureau. 20 minutes later, support from the Wuhan headquarters had already arrived, with Kong Cheng, a team leader from the headquarters who was at body refinement level 4. But he didn't expect that the battle had already ended at this time, and a team leader from the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau who was at body refinement level 4 had solved everything. After exchanging pleasantries in the director's office and getting to know Jiang Heng, Kong Cheng left Yukon District and returned home. The latest novels are available at 69shu.com. The sky gradually brightened. Until the morning, there were no subsequent attacks, and the assassination targeting the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau ended here. The interrogation section also mobilized again and began to fully investigate Peng Long, Wang Kong, and the 2 survivors left by Jiang Heng. The outer walls of several buildings of the Wuhan Bureau were shattered by these people last night and began to be repaired. As for Jiang Heng, he was pulled by Duan Zhenyu, Lv Zhehai and other colleagues to a hotel, on the grounds of thanking him for saving their lives, to treat Jiang Heng to dinner. On the one hand, it was naturally to repay their gratitude, and on the other hand, it was also to curry favor and build relationships. Now that Jiang Heng has broken through to body refinement level 4, and has accumulated enough merit, I'm afraid he will soon be promoted to the headquarters, and will no longer be in the Wuhan Bureau in the future. If they don't make friends and cultivate relationships now, it will be too late when Jiang Heng becomes successful in the future. It wasn't until the night was deep that Jiang Heng walked back to the guard room, covered in alcohol. Of course, it was just the smell of alcohol. With his current physical fitness, even if he poured industrial alcohol into his stomach, there would be no problem. Jiang Heng sat at the computer desk, his fingertips gently tapping the table. Today's events made him set a small goal. When he is officially promoted to be the captain of the 13th branch of the headquarters, the first thing he will do is to target the Jinding group. They actually dared to attack the Wuhan Bureau. If it weren't for him, I don't know how many people would have been killed or injured in the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau this time. Jiang Heng withdrew his thoughts and was about to subconsciously reach out and pick up the jade box in front of the computer desk. Only then did he remember that the last gram of flame energy essence in the jade box had been used up by him last night. Tisk. Jiang Heng put down the jade box and calculated in his mind. His current body refinement level is 4.06, and he is still in the iron blood realm of the early stage of level 4. If he wants to enter the mid stage of level 4, he needs at least 8 grams of flame energy essence. Moreover, he also needs to think of a way in terms of martial arts. The Wuhan headquarters does not include the last top-level martial art of the open double-angle bracket Vajra series close double-angle bracket. If there is no other way, he may have to consider practicing other types of top-level martial arts to enhance his combat power. Although top-level martial arts can no longer help tap the potential of the physical body, they are the pinnacle of martial arts skills. Whether or not one has practiced top-level martial arts makes a world of difference in the combat power of level 4 martial artists. That's right, there are also clothes. Jiang Heng lowered his head and glanced at the brand new coat he was wearing. As he learned fourth-order blood burning, the temperature of the flames transformed by his energy became higher and higher, and the clothes on his body became more and more fragile. Even though he had been very careful to control his energy and not touch the pants on his lower body. However, the high temperature conducted by the energy to the air was enough to burn his pants as well. If this continues, he will have to run around naked every time he fights. I have to buy a set of high-temperature resistant clothing as soon as possible. I remember that the special resource mall in the bureau has this kind of thing. Jiang Heng murmured to himself. I wonder how much merit value I can get for killing these people from the Jinding group this time. He withdrew his thoughts, then directly took off his coat, went into the bathroom, and washed away the alcohol from his body. Chapter 96 Surgery. Baoshan District, the underground laboratory of the Jinding group. Tang Zhenghao sat on a large metal chair in the laboratory, recalling the scene from last night, and still felt a chill down his spine. That Jiang Heng is actually at the 4th level of physical body. Last night, he personally witnessed Jiang Heng chase out from the Wuhan Bureau and kill Chu Bai, the leader of the Sword-Tooth group, with one punch. Fortunately, he reacted in time and left without looking back. Otherwise, once he was discovered by Jiang Heng, Tang Zhenghao felt a chill in his heart. He gritted his teeth and slammed his thigh. It's already like this, what is the chairman still waiting for? This underground laboratory will definitely be discovered. If we don't move it away, we will be caught by the Wuhan Bureau. Time passed slowly. Finally, Tang Zhenghao's phone rang. It was Shui Bo, the chairman of Jinding Group, calling. Hello, chairman, how have you considered it? He said anxiously. We must evacuate as soon as possible, otherwise, once the things in this laboratory are caught by the Wuhan Bureau, the entire group will suffer. Shui Bo said coldly. Enough, you can start evacuating people, but you must be responsible for the loss of this experimental base. Tang Zhenghao almost cursed out loud when he heard this. How the hell would I know that Jiang Heng of the Yukon District Wuhan Bureau is a 4th-level physical body martial artist? You yourself guaranteed to me that there would be no 4th-level martial artists in Yukon District. Now that something has really happened, you want me to bear the loss. But naturally, he couldn't say these words. Shui Bo himself is a 4th-level physical body martial artist, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sit firmly in the position of chairman of the Jinding Group. If Tang Zhenghao really dared to disobey him, the outcome would still be disastrous. He suppressed the anger in his heart, and then nodded. Okay, I understand. 1 day later, early morning. Jiang Heng picked up his phone. At this time, a message was already displayed on the phone screen. Dear Captain Jiang Heng, congratulations, your promotion order has been successfully approved. From today onwards, your government rank has been officially promoted to 3rd-class Sergeant Major. The specific position appointment is tentatively set as Captain of the 13th Detachment of the General Bureau. The current detachment members are being reorganized. Please go to the General Bureau to receive the appointment in 7 days. It's finally here. Jiang Heng nodded slightly. With the identity of the detachment leader of the General Bureau, he will no longer be limited to the internal affairs of Yukon District in the future. He can attack other criminal forces within the entire Nanjing city. Of course, the premise is that he can beat them. With his current 4th-level early-stage physical body level, it is still a bit low after all. But, Jiang Heng saw the text of his military rank promotion and his heart moved. Then he opened his Wuhan Bureau account. Sure enough, the military rank logo on the personal interface has also become a 3rd-class Sergeant Major. And a special resource logo has also been added to the mall interface. Special resources within the Wuhan General Bureau can only be viewed and purchased after the military rank reaches 3rd-class Sergeant Major. Now that his military rank has met the standard, he can purchase special resources within the Wuhan Bureau himself without going through Zhang Yunliang. Now all that's left is the interrogation department. After the Yanxi energy essence was used up, Jiang Heng's cultivation progress these 2 days was as slow as a snail compared to before. He pondered slightly, then picked up his phone and urged the interrogation department to complete the task as soon as possible. Sure enough, after being urged, the efficiency of the interrogation department improved a lot. That afternoon, they calculated the merit points he had obtained during this period. A full 125,000 points. In the director's office, Jiang Heng looked at the more than 120,000 merit points in his phone, and a look of joy suddenly appeared in his eyes. Finally, there are merit points to use. He was not in a hurry to buy things in the mall. Instead, he looked up at Zhang Yunliang, who was sitting behind the desk in front of him. At this time, Zhang Yunliang frowned slightly, his face did not seem very good. Jiang Heng asked, "Director, have the interrogation results of those people come out?" Zhang Yunliang nodded slightly. Yes, the Jinding Group has an underground experimental base in Baoshan district, which contains a large number of illegal and prohibited experiments. Oh, Jiang Heng's eyes lit up slightly. This kind of experimental base is a good place to earn merit points. Zhang Yunliang shook his head and smiled bitterly when he saw his appearance. Don't think too much, a fire broke out in Baoshan district yesterday. This underground experimental base has been burned down. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, destroying evidence. Zhang Yunliang nodded and said, "It should be, they knew that this underground base could no longer be hidden from us, so they evacuated in advance and destroyed this base." Jiang Heng narrowed his eyes slightly. The evidence about the Jinding Group that was interrogated from them should not only be the situation of this experimental base, right? Zhang Yunliang said, "Naturally, there is more than that, but they are not within the territory of Yuquan district." Jiang Heng's eyes turned cold and said, "It's okay, just give me the evidence." In a few days, he will go to the General Bureau to take office. With this evidence, he can just take action against this Jinding Group. Trafficking in human beings, illegal human experiments, various prohibited drugs, all kinds of evil deeds are simply too numerous to mention. If he can destroy this entire Jinding Group, how many merit points will he be able to get? Jiang Heng's eyes were indifferent, but a hint of excitement appeared in his eyes. Zhang Yunliang nodded slightly and added, "But don't underestimate this Jinding Group. Shui Bo, the chairman of Jinding Group, is also a martial artist who has entered the 4th level for many years." Jiang Heng nodded slightly. "I understand." He had already checked Shui Bo's information. When he came to Nanjing City 10 years ago to establish the Jinding Group, he was already at the 4th level of physical body strength. In the subsequent series of business competitions, he even personally killed a 4th-level early-stage martial artist sent by a rival company to assassinate him. This is enough to see that his strength is not weak and may have already entered the middle stage of the 4th level. Jiang Heng nodded in response, and then bid farewell and left. Guangxin Street Garrison Room. Jiang Heng sat on the office chair and turned on his phone. The newest novels are first published on 69shu.com. He looked at the more than 130,000 merit points on the personal interface in his Wuhan Bureau account and nodded with satisfaction. Then he opened the Wuhan Bureau Mall interface and searched through it. He found a set of Wuhan uniforms made of nanomaterials, which are resistant to high temperatures and can withstand forces below 10 tons, worth 20,000 merit points. Jiang Heng hesitated slightly and then chose to buy it. Although it is a bit expensive, he really doesn't want to be naked when fighting. 20,000 merit points were immediately deducted from the account. Then, he found the purchase interface of Yanxi Energy Essence and bought 10 grams of Yanxi Energy Essence in one go. For a time, the original nearly 140,000 merit points were directly cleared, leaving only a little over 2,000. It's gone again. Jiang Heng shook his head helplessly. As expected, it only looks like a lot, but when you spend it, it's still not enough. In the afternoon, 10 grams of Yanxi Energy Essence and a set of Wuhan uniforms sewn from nanomaterials were sent from the General Bureau to Jiang Heng. He returned to the garrison room without hesitation and immediately began to practice. Jiang Heng's cultivation efficiency finally began to increase rapidly again after having the Yanxi Energy Essence. 10 days passed in a flash. Even the Spring Festival in February has passed. In this world 200 years later, although it still maintains the custom of celebrating the Spring Festival, the atmosphere of the New Year is still getting weaker and weaker. And Jiang Heng also has no relatives and friends to reunite with. He only sent a New Year's greeting to Uncle Chen in Tianfu Provincial City and a few friends in the Wuhan Bureau. In addition, he still practiced as usual. Until the 7th day, Jiang Heng went to the Wuhan General Bureau and officially took over as the captain of the 13th Detachment of the General Bureau. The original 13th Detachment was reorganized, although some of Pan Rufeng's original members were still retained. But naturally, no one would offend their current boss for the sake of the already resigned captain. What's more, compared with Pan Rufeng at the peak of the 3rd level, Jiang Heng has already entered the 4th level of physical body, and his future is limitless. The people of the 13th Detachment were too busy trying to please him, and it was impossible for them to cause trouble for Jiang Heng. Therefore, the takeover of the 13th Detachment of the General Bureau went very smoothly. Jiang Heng has since become the 6th 4th level physical body martial artist in the Wuhan General Bureau. And his residence has also been moved from the remote Guangxin Street garrison room to a garrison camp in the center of Nanjing City. Compared with ordinary garrison rooms, this place has a martial arts room covering more than 500 square meters, backed by a mountain hundreds of meters high, which is enough to test one's own strength. Jiang Heng was quite satisfied with this. During this period, with the help of Yanqi energy essence, his physical body level has also been rapidly improving. In just a few days, he has crossed the Iron Blood realm and entered the Silver Blood. At the foot of Wudong Mountain, a bedroom in the garrison camp. In front of the half-length mirror in the bathroom. With a thought, a semi-transparent panel appeared in Jiang Heng's vision. His eyes swept over several data items. Physical body level, 4.33. Cultivation method, Candlelight Series 4th level breathing method proficiency, 55%. The physical body level has officially entered the Silver Blood, and the bioenergy intensity in his blood has doubled again. And the proficiency of the 4th level candlelight breathing method has also increased to 55%, and the power that the 4th level burning blood can exert is even more powerful. 4th level mid-stage. Jiang Heng looked at himself in the mirror and nodded gently with satisfaction. In Nanjing City, among the more than 50 4th level physical body martial artists on the surface, at least 20 are in the early stage of the 4th level. With his current physical body level alone, he has already surpassed a small half of the 4th level martial artists. In addition, with the 4th level late-stage nerve reaction speed brought by the Dao Seed Fragment, and the powerful power of the 4th level burning blood, I am afraid that few people in the middle stage of the 4th level can be his opponent. And now the only problem is, there is only 1 gram of Yanqi energy essence left, and the merit points in the account have also been used up. It's enough. Jiang Heng stretched out his right hand with satisfaction, slowly clenched his fist, and the heavy blood flowing in the blood vessels and meridians in his body surged with terrifying power. It's time to take action against the Jin Ding group. Chapter 97 Suppression. It was 6 in the morning. Wudong Mountain, the garrison camp. Located about 5 kilometers from the city center, it was nestled against the mountains, offering tranquility amidst the bustle. Jiang Heng walked out of his bedroom and summoned all members of the General Bureau's 13th Detachment to gather in the plaza. By this time, after several days of acquaintance, Jiang Heng had gradually become familiar with and integrated into this newly reorganized detachment. The 13th Detachment had 7 groups, totaling 27 members, including the group leaders. Among the 7 group leaders, 5 were Tier 2 martial artists. Among them, Zheng Kaifeng, the leader of Group 1, and Ji Yuhao, the leader of Group 2, were both Tier 3 martial artists in the early stage. Originally, with their physical strength and accumulated merits, they could have been assigned to branch bureaus to serve as detachment leaders. However, due to their reluctance to leave the General Bureau, the slow pace of earning merits in branch bureaus, and various other reasons, they had not left the General Bureau. Although their military rank had been promoted to Sergeant First Class, they still remained in the General Bureau as group leaders. And they were transferred here during this reorganization of the 13th Detachment. A moment later, Zheng Kaifeng's gaze swept over the 27 group members lined up behind him, and he saluted, saying, "Reporting, Captain, all 28 members of the 13th Detachment are present. Please issue instructions." Each group of the 13th Detachment had its own jurisdiction. Unless it was an important mission, Jiang Heng would not have mobilized all of them. Jiang Heng nodded slightly, his gaze sweeping over everyone present. This is the first mission after the reorganization of the 13th Detachment. I hope you will not disappoint me. Let's go. The target of this mission is the Jinding Group. Ximen District, Qinghai Charity Hospital. This hospital, invested in 8 years ago, was renowned throughout Nanjing City for its charitable nature and affordable medical prices. Many impoverished people in Nanjing City would even choose to travel for several hours to reach Qinghai Charity Hospital for treatment when they were sick. However, according to the intelligence extracted by the Yukon District Martial Security Bureau from Panglong, Wang Kong, and others. The mastermind behind this hospital was none other than the Jinding Group. The Jinding Group used this hospital as a cover to secretly engage in illegal human organ trafficking. They selected patients who came for treatment as experimental subjects, secretly kidnapping them and transporting them to have their organs removed, and even conducting various virus and gene experiments. This seemingly charitable hospital was actually just a dark and dirty illegal organ trading venue. And the underground experimental base in Baoshan district was also likely transferred here in advance. 8 police SUVs sped along the road and then stopped in front of the gate of Qinghai Charity Hospital. Dozens of Marshal Security General Bureau members quickly surrounded the entire Qinghai Charity Hospital. The originally noisy Qinghai Hospital suddenly fell silent. The Nanjing city residents who came for treatment looked around blankly. Without Jiang Heng needing to speak himself, Zheng Kaifeng took a step forward, his loud voice resounding throughout the entire Qinghai Charity Hospital. Marshal Security Bureau routine inspection. Non-hospital personnel leave immediately. The powerful aura of a Tier 3 martial artist instantly spread out, and the people who had wanted to enter Qinghai Hospital hurriedly dispersed. Jiang Heng said calmly, Group 2, take Groups 6 and 7 to surround the hospital. Contact the local police technicians from Guangshan district and prepare to come over for a search. Ji Yu Haoyu, the leader of Group 2, immediately nodded, yes. Jiang Heng continued, the rest of you, follow me into the hospital to search. Yes. The members of Group 1 and Groups 3, 4, and 5 rushed into the hospital together, pinning the 2 hospital security guards who tried to stop them to the ground. Then they began to disperse the people in the hospital, searching every room in the hospital, and the noisy sounds continued to echo in the hospital. A moment later, Su Shouyang, the dean of Qinghai Hospital, wearing a white coat, was brought before Jiang Heng. Respected Marshal Security Bureau officials, what is the problem with our Qinghai Hospital that we have to suffer such violent law enforcement? Dean Su Shouyang was an old man in his early 60s, slightly hunched, with graying temples and a kind and amiable face. At this moment, his face was flushed, as if he had suffered a great insult. Since its establishment, our Qinghai Hospital has been conscientiously treating patients and has never made a mistake. Why is your Marshal Security Bureau treating us like this? After he said this, a Qinghai doctor escorted by a Marshal Security Bureau member nearby also shouted, yes. We protest. The Marshal Security Bureau is violently enforcing the law, oppressing the people. Subsequently, other doctors and nurses from Qinghai Hospital also began to shout loudly. And other Nanjing city residents who did not know the truth and were about to disperse stopped and watched. Even more, some people had already picked up their mobile phones and started filming videos. Zheng Kaifeng was shocked. If the news of the Marshal Security Bureau oppressing the people spread online, even if it was clarified afterward, it would cause a considerable blow to the reputation of the Marshal Security Bureau. The foundation of Nanjing Marshal Security comes from the general public of Nanjing City, and its reputation and prestige among the people are naturally of paramount importance. He hurriedly said loudly, the Marshal Security Bureau's investigation has found that Qinghai Hospital is suspected of conducting human experiments and illegally trading organs, so a thorough investigation is required. Please all. Slander. This is blatant slander. Su Shouyang's face flushed, and he interrupted Zheng Kaifeng's words with righteous indignation. The newest novels are first published on 69shu.com. What evidence do you have to prove that Qinghai Hospital has these criminal activities? Zheng Kaifeng was slightly stunned and subconsciously glanced at Jiang Heng beside him. The 13th detachment was only following Jiang Heng's orders to come and investigate Qinghai Hospital. Naturally, they did not know whether there was any specific evidence. Suddenly, Jiang Heng, who had been standing in place and not speaking, suddenly opened his mouth. You want evidence, right? His figure instantly disappeared from the spot, and the next moment he appeared in front of the central courtyard of the hospital. The silver blood in his body gurgled, and a majestic aura surged out of his body, and raging flames enveloped his body, soaring to 3 zhang. In midair, he twisted his waist and spun, his right arm like a fully drawn bow, and then he threw a punch. Dozens of auras in his body operated at the same time, and fire snakes wound up his right arm. The moment the fist peak protruded, a fist peak phantom with a diameter of 1 zhang and a circling fire snake slammed down on the ground. The first form of the Iron Blood Realm's full-strength primal ape, mountain-cracking river-splitting. Its terrifying power instantly shattered the courtyard, penetrating into the ground. The entire hospital shook for a moment, and the ground at the courtyard suddenly cracked and collapsed into a large pit with a radius of 3 zhang, revealing a spacious space below. looking down from above. Indeed, in this spacious underground room, one could see the cold instruments and the human organs soaked in the solution. Su Shouyang's face instantly turned pale. And the people in the nearby floors who got up from the tremors were in an uproar when they saw this scene. It's actually true. Qinghe Hospital is actually selling human organs. Where did these human organs come from? Could it be from patients? Speaking of this, many people present suddenly froze. Many people's family members were hospitalized in Qinghe Hospital, and it was inconvenient to leave. At this moment, thinking of this, naturally, no matter what, they had to take their families away from this hospital. Seeing this opportunity, Zheng Kaifeng immediately said loudly, "Everyone, don't worry, leave the hospital first, and the Martial Security Bureau will immediately thoroughly investigate this hospital." Bang! Before he could finish speaking, Su Shouyang, whose arms were being held down, suddenly broke free and stood up. Like a tiger leaping over a mountain stream, he pounced towards a Nanjing city resident at the hospital entrance. This seemingly dying old man was actually also a martial artist. The laboratory under the hospital had been discovered, and the entire hospital had no room for redemption or escape. With the crimes he had committed, if he was caught by the Martial Security Bureau, he would be sent to the execution ground sooner or later. It was better to risk everything at this moment. Using the lives of the Nanjing citizens as a threat, maybe there was still a glimmer of hope. Su Shouyang's hands were like tiger's teeth, grabbing towards the middle-aged resident with a terrified expression. The next moment, a tall black shadow suddenly loomed over Su Shouyang's head. Bang! His right hand casually slapped Su Shouyang's neck, and the majestic force instantly crushed his cervical spine. His body crashed to the ground, his head drooping to one side in a strangely twisted posture, and the bones, flesh, and blood of his neck and back were all shattered, and he was already dead. The middle-aged resident standing at the hospital entrance stood there blankly, and the mobile phone in his hand fell to the ground with a thud. And the remaining doctors and nurses in the hospital still wanted to resist, but the remaining members of the 13th Detachment were naturally prepared and quickly suppressed them. A few minutes later, the Martial Security Bureau completely took over the entire hospital and found countless evidence of Qinghe Hospital's illegal and criminal activities underground. And they found the inextricable relationship with the Jinding Group. Chapter 98, Chasing. Half an hour later, a wanted notice was posted on the internal official website of the Martial Security Agency. The Jinding Group of Nanjing City is suspected of human experiments, genetic modification, and human organ trafficking. A wanted notice is now issued. Please, all Martial Security Agencies in all districts, do your best to capture the members of the Jinding Group. Meanwhile, Jiang Heng had already led the 13th branch and left Qinghe Hospital. They headed to thoroughly investigate the Jinding Group's headquarters building in the city center, then quickly extended outwards to seal off every property of the Jinding Group. In just half a day, the Jinding Group, which had been thriving in Nanjing City, rapidly fell apart, and its industries throughout the city were constantly being sealed off by the Martial Security Agency. Inside a secret underground chamber, Shui Bo, the chairman of the Jinding Group, was contacting the friends he had made over the years. The Nanjing Municipal Government, the Joint Assembly, elites from both political and business circles. Beep beep beep. The phone line was disconnected again, with no one answering. He had already made more than a dozen calls, but all of them went unanswered. Shui Bo's face was gloomy. He sneered and said, "They all used to call me brother, but now that the Martial Security Agency is watching me, they want to distance themselves from me." His eyes were cold, and he muttered to himself, "It seems I can't protect this Jinding Group. Forget it, it doesn't matter anyway. Coming to Nanjing City was originally just to find a place to collect experimental data. At worst, I'll just find another place and start over." As he spoke, his tone changed. But Shui Bo seemed to think of something, and his face became even colder. "That Jiang Heng, destroying my decade of hard work like this, I can't quell the hatred in my heart if I don't kill him." He pondered for a moment, then picked up his phone again and dialed the number of Ghost Hand of Hongmen. After waiting for a while, the call finally connected. On the other end of the phone, Hu Ming, the fourth-level leader of Hongmen, slowly said, "What do you want from me? If you want Hongmen to help you deal with the Martial Security Agency, then forget about it." Shui Bo sneered, "I really don't know what you Hongmen are waiting for. The Martial Security Agency is growing stronger every year, and Hongmen's power is being eroded every day. If this continues, I'm afraid that in less than 2 years, Hongmen will be completely reduced to the Martial Security Agency's prey." Hu Ming was silent for a moment, then said faintly, "It's just not the time yet. You don't need to worry about this kind of thing. Speak, what do you want from me? If you want to leave Nanjing City, you shouldn't need my help, right?" Shui Bo grinned and said, "I want you to get me a crystal beam gun. I want to kill that Jiang Heng, and then leave." In the past 200 years, while the path of martial arts has continued to develop, the level of technology has not stopped progressing. Ordinary gunpowder weapons can no longer harm martial artists at the fourth level of the physical body. However, the crystal beam gun, forged with the special energy essence that appeared from Tianmen, can do it. Moreover, it has extremely great destructive power and can even kill fourth-level physical body martial artists from a long distance. It's just that the cost of this kind of gun is also extremely high. Moreover, after many years of research, it is still unstable and is still in the experimental stage. Only a small number of crystal beam guns are circulating outside. Hu Ming was silent for a moment. "How do you know we have this thing?" Shui Bo chuckled and said, 8 years ago, a team leader of the Martial Security Agency's headquarters, who was at the fourth level of the physical body, died unexpectedly from a crystal beam gun attack while performing a mission on the Thai-Myanmar border. The Nanjing Martial Security Agency thought it was done by the 1000 GU Alliance, but I know it was you. Hu Ming fell silent again. Shui Bo said with a faint smile, "We've been old friends for so many years, you can't even handle this little thing, right? If Wang Jinglin knows that you did this 8 years ago." "Enough." Hu Ming interrupted him directly. 50 million, I'll give you one. The crystal beam gun can only fire once, and it will be scrapped after firing. You have to be clear about that." "Don't worry, I know." Shui Bo nodded lightly with satisfaction. "I will transfer the money to your card. Send someone to deliver the gun to the Red Forest District tonight." "All right." The phone hung up. Shui Bo put down his phone, slowly narrowed his eyes, and murmured, "Jiang Heng, you are dead. ... City Center, Jinding Tower. This building, which has been under construction for 10 years, is still as new as ever. But at this moment, the entire building has been sealed off, and countless members of the Jinding group have been sent to the Martial Security Agency for investigation. This top-notch biomedical enterprise in Nanjing City has collapsed." Zheng Kaifeng didn't expect that he had only followed Jiang Heng for a few days, and he had played a big game, directly wiping out a top enterprise in Nanjing City. His mood was inevitably a little excited at the moment. How much merit will be gained from this sweep? Jiang Heng, who was standing in front of him, glanced at the Jinding Tower, but frowned slightly and asked, "Have you found Shui Bo yet?" The lion's share of the merit points for clearing out the Jinding group fell on Shui Bo, the chairman of the Jinding group. He alone has at least 60,000 merit points, so he can't be let go. Zheng Kaifeng was slightly stunned, then shook his head, "Not yet." He hesitated slightly, then said, "Captain, martial artists at the fourth level of the physical body can easily cross the Nanjing border line. If he wants to hide or leave Nanjing City, it will be difficult for us to stop him." Jiang Heng nodded slightly, didn't think much about it, and said, "Continue, clear out the next property of the Jinding group. Within 2 days, they must be wiped out." "Yes." The 20-odd martial security team members of the 13th branch behind him responded in unison, their eyes excited. Such a large-scale mission, the merit points distributed to them afterwards would naturally not be small. The sky gradually brightened. The 13th branch of the General Bureau, which had been busy all night, arrived in the Red Forest District. At this time, the members of the 13th branch looked a little tired, but they all knew that the opportunity was rare, so they cheered themselves up and got out of the car. The latest novels are on 69shu.com. The Red Forest District is located in the southern suburbs of Nanjing City, with a sparse population and lush vegetation. A few dozen kilometers further ahead is the border of the Thai-Myanmar Administrative Region. Zheng Kaifeng looked down at the information on his phone, according to the news from the interrogation section. The Red Forest Endangered Animal and Plant Conservation Base in the Red Forest District is the last important stronghold of the Jinding Group. As long as this place is sealed off, the core industries of the Jinding Group will be basically cleared. Jiang Heng nodded slightly. "Let's go in and take a look." "Yes." Subsequently, led by Jiang Heng, a group of Martial Security Agency members entered the Endangered Animal and Plant Conservation Base. As expected, evidence of illegal experiments was found deep inside. This base was trying to graft the genes of mutated creatures into the human body. Moreover, experimental subjects with the characteristics of mutated animals have already been transformed. But most of them are not strong, and the highest is only at the third level of the physical body, which Jiang Heng solved with a slap. Soon, the last core industry of the Jin Ding group was also sealed off, and more than a dozen researchers from the Red Forest base were arrested and sent to the Martial Security Agency. Jiang Heng took a step out of the Red Forest base, turned to look at the members of the 13th branch behind him, and said calmly, "This mission will end here for now. Everyone has worked hard today, so go back and rest first." The tense expressions on the faces of the Martial Security Agency members gradually relaxed, and then they spoke. "Yes, thank you, Captain. It's finally over. Does anyone want to go out for a late-night snack? Captain, do you want to come with us?" Jiang Heng smiled when he heard this and said, "Yes, but it's daytime now, so there's no late-night snack." Before he could finish speaking, an extremely terrifying sense of crisis instantly locked onto him. In an instant, Jiang Heng's pupils shrank, and the majestic aura contained in the silver blood in his body suddenly erupted like a volcano. The neural network strengthened by the Dao seed fragment played a crucial role at this moment. The neural reaction speed, which had reached the peak of the 4th level, controlled his body, instantly twisting and shifting. At the same time, he raised his right leg and kicked away a Martial Security Agency member in front of him. In the next moment, a cold beam of light suddenly tore through the air, brushed past Jiang Heng's side, and instantly pierced through a police car a few meters away. Along with a researcher from the Red Forest base on the police car, it was torn apart and drilled into the ground all the way, leaving a bottomless columnar pit in the ground. If this beam of light were to hit someone, even a physical body at the 4th level would die. Looking for death, Jiang Heng suddenly raised his head, his cold eyes wanting to devour people. He looked in the direction from which the beam of light came and immediately locked his eyes on the top of a mountain a few kilometers away. A terrifying killing intent instantly descended, causing the Martial Security Agency members present to almost suffocate. The next moment, boom, the ground under his feet suddenly shattered, and spider web-like traces spread around. Jiang Heng's figure had already disappeared from the spot. On the top of a mountain 3 kilometers away. Shui Bo looked in astonishment at Jiang Heng at the opposite base entrance, feeling unbelievable in his heart. He can dodge that. At this time, the crystal beam gun in his hand, which resembled a sniper rifle, had been completely scrapped after firing a shot, and it was covered with dense cracks. Shui Bo immediately retracted his thoughts, turned his head without hesitation, jumped off the mountain, and ran quickly. Now that the opportunity to kill Jiang Heng had been missed, he had to leave Nanjiang City as soon as possible. This place is only a few dozen kilometers away from the Thai-Myanmar border. With his pace, he could arrive in a moment. When he left the territory of Nanjiang City, the Nanjiang Martial Security Agency would naturally have no way to deal with him. Just as he was thinking this in his heart, a soaring firelight behind him illuminated the road ahead, and a terrifying killing intent had already locked onto him. Shui Bo was shocked and hurriedly turned his head to look back. He saw Jiang Heng's eyes were cold, his figure was already close to a few feet away, his whole body was filled with flames, and his right arm was pulled back like a 1,000-pound bow. Hundreds of fire snakes hovered above his right arm, carrying an incomparably terrifying force, tearing through the sky with a sonic boom in midair. His fist peak turned and landed on Shui Bo's body with a bang. Chapter 99 Beheading. 3 kilometers outside the Red Forest district, the desolate wilderness was swept by a biting wind. Dawn was approaching, but the light remained dim. Suddenly, a blazing fire illuminated the sky as a fist engulfed in roaring flames slammed into Shui Bo's back. The intense heat of over 2,000 degrees instantly incinerated Shui Bo's suit, carbonizing the flesh on his back. The force of this attack, capable of shattering mountains and splitting rivers, directly caved in a basin-sized area on Shui Bo's left shoulder and back. The bones, flesh, and organs in his shoulder and back shattered amidst the fiery inferno. His entire body was sent flying like a cannonball, crashing into a mountainside 100 meters away, shattering large sections of rock from the cliff face. With just this one blow, Shui Bo was already critically injured. Jiang Heng landed on the ground. However, immediately after landing, without the slightest hesitation, he strode forward to attack again, determined not to give Shui Bo any chance to recover. Boom! In the next instant, Shui Bo smashed through the rubble and emerged from the mountainside. Although the left side of his shoulder and back was collapsed and shattered, a charred and indistinct mess. His overall body had swollen wildly to nearly 3 meters, giving rise to all sorts of bizarre organs and tissues. Armor-like fish scales protruded from the surface of his skin, covering his entire body, and his pupils were filled with dense, honeycomb-shaped compound eyes. A row of distinctly jointed, conical bone spurs protruded from his spine, and the skin of his right forearm split open, the viscous bone fluid solidifying into a bone blade fully 2 meters long. His eyes were bloodshot, and the stench of blood was overwhelming. This sight caused Jiang Heng to pause involuntarily. What is this monster? He thought for a moment, recalling the state of the test subjects he had seen in the Red Forest District base, and gradually understood. This Shui Bo had actually implanted the results of those human experiments directly into his own body. No wonder this person was at level 4 initial stage 10 years ago and is still at level 4 initial stage 10 years later. Implanting so many chaotic things into his body. The energy supplied to his bones, muscles, and blood was greatly diverted, so naturally, it was impossible to continue progressing in the martial arts realm. Shui Bo was now filled with murderous aura, his eyes bloodshot, and a deafening roar echoed across the wilderness. You think you can kill me? If I wasn't worried about the Martial Security Agency's reinforcements, do you think you would be my match? Since you insist on seeking death, then I will gladly grant it. Before he could finish speaking, a scarlet figure flashed through the air, and Jiang Heng had already arrived. He had only stopped just now because he hadn't understood what these things on Shui Bo's body were. Now that he understood, there was naturally no reason to waste any more words with him. Die. Jiang Heng's figure landed in midair, twisting his waist and rotating his body. The steel-like muscles all over his body tensed like a bowstring, and streaks of scarlet energy flowed through his blood vessels and fascia. Seeing Jiang Heng coming straight at him, Shui Bo roared angrily, and the 2-meter-long bone blade in his hand stirred up the wind and clouds, tearing out a vacuum. Enveloping a storm of several feet, he slashed down at Jiang Heng. Jiang Heng's gaze narrowed slightly. Although these implants were strange and twisted, their power was indeed quite good. No wonder this Shui Bo was able to easily kill a level 4 initial stage martial artist back then. Thinking of this, his nerve reaction speed, which had already reached the peak of level 4, once again controlled his body to shift 3 feet horizontally, dodging Shui Bo's slash. Then, his left hand formed a hook with its 5 fingers, seizing Shui Bo's right arm, which had lost its momentum, and his body soared into the air. During the rotation, a spinning force suddenly erupted from his waist, and his body flipped upside down. Vajra 4th style Azure Cliff Hanging Seal. For most level 4 martial artists, top-level martial arts are too difficult, so they rarely learn them. Therefore, the martial arts realm of most level 4 martial artists basically remains at the level of proficient or accomplished professional level martial arts. Their understanding and comprehension of martial arts can only be considered average. However, Jiang Heng not only cultivated the basic and advanced martial arts to perfection, but also cultivated the extremely difficult 3 styles of the crippled ape, which far surpassed other professional level martial arts, to perfection. At this moment, his understanding of martial arts had far surpassed other martial artists of the same realm, not inferior to the level of senior Yuan Jinggong back then. Therefore, even the moves in the initial basic and advanced martial arts, in his hands, they could still unleash power no less than that of professional level martial arts. At this moment, Jiang Heng's improved Azure Cliff Hanging Seal suddenly erupted with extremely powerful destructive force. Under the effect of the enormous rotational force of his core waist, Shui Bo's right arm, holding the blade, rotated rapidly, bursting out a series of bone-cracking sounds that made people's teeth ache. In the blink of an eye, his entire arm was twisted into a pretzel. Shui Bo's face flushed instantly, and the bloodshot in his eyes almost turned into blood. Roaring, he bent his left arm, and a cold bone spur on his elbow pierced out of his skin again, elbowing at Jiang Heng behind him. Jiang Heng's gaze remained unchanged, using his left leg as an axis to lower his body, dodging Shui Bo's elbow strike while rotating his body 360 degrees. His right leg swept across the ground like a crocodile's tail, heavily striking Shui Bo's waist. Shui Bo's body suddenly arched, and the great force caused the muscles in his waist to collapse, and even the internal kidney organs were shattered. He spat out blood and flew out. In the face of Jiang Heng's extremely high martial arts realm and nerve reaction speed far exceeding those of the same realm, Shui Bo was merely like a child wielding a heavy hammer, unable to exert his own combat power at all. The newest and most complete novels are all on 69shu.com. Boom. Shui Bo rolled to the ground, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. At this moment, he finally realized that there was a huge gap in strength between himself and Jiang Heng opposite him. Step. Black Boots stepped on the ground again, and the tall figure was like an iron tower, overlooking Shui Bo lying on the ground. Wait, he spoke, but Jiang Heng's footsteps did not stop. A hint of panic finally appeared in Shui Bo's eyes. Wait, I'm a member of the Apocalypse Life, you can't kill me. A member of Apocalypse Life. Jiang Heng frowned slightly, searching his mind for a while, and then remembered an organization that only existed in rumors. Apocalypse Life, a mysterious organization that originated in Asia 100 years ago, specializing in the study of biological evolution. Rumor has it that this organization is powerful and its members are all over Asia. However, in Jiang Heng's view, if it was really powerful, then there would be no need to hide in the dark and cover it up. Jiang Heng walked to Shui Bo without any expression. Regardless of what Apocalypse Life is, Shui Bo's at least 60,000 merit points are the most important thing. Seeing that Jiang Heng had already stood in front of him, sweat kept seeping out on Shui Bo's forehead, and his mind was spinning rapidly. Wait, I can also tell you one thing, the crystal beam gun I just used came from Hongmen. 8 years ago, a level 4 body refining branch captain of the Martial Security Agency in Nanjing City died under this crystal beam gun. The Martial Security Agency thought it was the 1000 GU Allied forces in the Thai Myanmar administrative region who did it, but it was actually Hongmen. Jiang Heng raised his eyebrows slightly, just about to speak. Suddenly, his palm suddenly stretched out, displaying the weeping blood moon pluck, grabbing Shui Bo's neck. Then, he glanced coldly at Shui Bo's arm. At this time, even though Shui Bo was grabbed by Jiang Heng's neck, he was still reaching out his left arm, which could still move, trying to stab the conical weapon in his hand into Jiang Heng's body. Jiang Heng's eyes flickered slightly, and the vast force between the muscles of his palm suddenly surged, and he suddenly crushed Shui Bo's neck. Shui Bo's pupils shrank violently, and he opened his mouth unwillingly. Blood kept pouring out from between his teeth, he grunted twice in his throat, and his eyes dimmed. Chapter 100 Level 4.85. Looking for death. Jiang Heng's eyes were indifferent. He released his hand, dropping Shui Bo's corpse. Then, he reached out and picked up the conical weapon in his hand, examining it slightly, and guessed in his heart. Virus solution. The outer shell of this conical weapon was made of high-grade special alloy. The tip was sharp, and there was a cavity inside, which seemed to store some kind of liquid. Judging from the nature of the Golden Cauldron group, it was likely to be some kind of highly toxic virus. I'll try it when I get back. Jiang Heng retracted his thoughts, then put away the cylindrical weapon, carried Shui Bo's body, found the crystal beam gun that Shui Bo had discarded, and returned to the Red Forest area. Captain, are you alright? A member of the 13th Squad couldn't help but ask. Although the battlefield was several kilometers away from the Red Forest area, the deafening roar still reached the ears of these members of the Martial Security Bureau. With such terrifying power, one would believe that a small-scale battle had broken out. Jiang Heng shook his head. I'm fine, let's go. Yes. At this time, the local police station in the Martial Security Bureau had also arrived to help them send the criminals in the Red Forest base back to the Martial Security Bureau. Martial Security Bureau, Director's Office. Jiang Heng reported to Wang Jinglin about the mission and informed him of the identity of the Apocalypse Life organization that Shui Bo mentioned at the end. Wang Jinglin frowned slightly, just clowns hiding their heads and showing their tails. The Martial Security Bureaus in various places have also arrested many members of this organization over the years. Don't pay attention to it. Jiang Heng nodded, thought for a while and then said, by the way, Shui Bo said something before he died. 8 years ago, a squad leader of the Martial Security Bureau was shot and killed by a crystal beam gun while performing a mission on the Thai-Myanmar border. Wang Jinglin was slightly stunned, and his expression suddenly became not very good. There is such a thing. That squad leader was the last genius in the Nanjing Martial Security Bureau who hoped to break through to the 5th level of physical body, but unfortunately died there. Jiang Heng continued, Shui Bo said that this matter was not done by the 1000 GU Allied Army, but by the Hongmen. The crystal beam gun in his hand also came from Hongmen. Wang Jinglin was slightly stunned, and after a while, he suddenly woke up, and his expression suddenly became extremely gloomy. If this is the case, then the problem is big. He looked up at Jiang Heng. The model of that crystal beam gun was unique to a research institute in the Thai-Myanmar administrative region. After being occupied by the 1000 GU Allied Army, the crystal beam guns in it have not been leaked out. Normally speaking, it is absolutely impossible for it to appear in the hands of the Hongmen. But if the person who was killed 8 years ago was really killed by the Hongmen using this kind of crystal beam gun, Then it means that the Hongmen and the 1000 GU allied army already have a very deep connection. The Hongmen and the 1000 GU allied army have a very deep connection. Jiang Heng was slightly stunned, and then he understood. The Hongmen would naturally not collude with the 1000 GU allied army for no reason. Could it be that they wanted to be guides? Bringing the 1000 GU allied army that was raging in the Thai Myanmar administrative region to the Tianfu administrative region. Jiang Heng's expression changed slightly. No wonder the Hongmen has been in a state of forbearance and avoidance in the face of the Martial Security Bureau's encroachment in recent years. It turned out that they were secretly planning this kind of thing. Once the 1000 GU allied army launches a large-scale invasion of Nanjing City, the people in Nanjing City will surely be plunged into misery, and the Martial Security Bureau may cease to exist. And the Hongmen, which has already colluded with the 1000 GU allied army, will become the biggest winner. The atmosphere in the office suddenly fell into silence. Wang Jinglin pondered for a long time with a gloomy expression, and said, "Okay, I know about this matter, you go back first." "Yes." Jiang Heng nodded, then turned around and said goodbye to the office, and drove back to the garrison camp in Wadung Mountain. Garrison camp bedroom. Jiang Heng took out the conical weapon he had just obtained from Shui Bo. Since Shui Bo, as the chairman of the Golden Cauldron Group, would bring this kind of thing with him as a life-saving item. It shows that this thing can definitely pose a great threat to warriors of the 4th level of the physical body. It may even be fatal. Jiang Heng found a glass container, and then forcefully disassembled the conical weapon, pouring out the liquid inside. It was about 50 milliliters of pitch-black liquid, as if it contained some kind of cold and strange feeling. Jiang Heng hesitated slightly, then decided to give himself an injection first. If it was before, he might still have the mind to study the origin and usage of this potion. But now, Wang Jinglin has already learned that the Hongmen is colluding with the 1000 GU allied army, and he will definitely not let it go. The original slow encroachment strategy against the Hongmen will definitely undergo a major change. Maybe, in a few days, the decisive battle between the Martial Security Bureau and the Hongmen will come. At that time, who knows what kind of monsters and ghosts will emerge in Nanjing City. Therefore, he must try every means to improve his strength as soon as possible in order to have the ability to deal with risks. Give myself an injection first. Jiang Heng retracted his thoughts, picked up the tungsten steel needle tube, and drew out the solution. Then, he stretched out his right hand, forcibly tore open a blood opening on the skin of his left arm, and injected the solution in the tungsten steel needle tube into the vein. As soon as the ink-colored solution came into contact with his flesh and blood, it drilled into the depths of his flesh and blood as if it had life. Jiang Heng's eyes lit up slightly. Well, that's interesting. And on the translucent panel in his sight, a line of text popped up. ETR3 type mixed virus is invading. About to fall into multiple negative states such as blood heat, bone dryness, muscle atrophy, and organ dissolution. Jiang Heng was slightly stunned. Mixed viruses will cause so many negative states. Immediately afterwards, he clearly felt that the temperature of the blood in his body was rapidly increasing, even starting to boil. This was boiling in the literal sense, and the blood temperature had reached 100 degrees Celsius. The bone marrow throughout his body was rapidly losing, muscle cells were atrophying, and the internal organs were dissolving little by little. Even the beating of the heart was rapidly weakening in just a few seconds. In just a few seconds, Jiang Heng seemed as weak as an old man in his twilight years. Tisk, the effect is very good. After Jiang Heng confirmed the effect of this solution, he was not in a hurry to use pathogenic erosion to eliminate the disease. Instead, he continued to inject the mixed virus in the tungsten steel needle tube to aggravate the disease in his body. Subsequently, the disease in Jiang Heng's body worsened again. The blood in his body continued to agitate, the cell temperature had exceeded 300 degrees Celsius, the muscles atrophied, and the organs dissolved on a large area. ETR3 type mixed virus is seriously invading the body. Multiple negative states such as blood heat, bone dryness, muscle atrophy, and organ dissolution are rapidly increasing, and will fall into total paralysis within 20 seconds, and will die completely within 1 minute. Jiang Heng saw that the time was almost up, and if he dragged it on any longer, he would be finished. Then he silently recited in his heart, pathogenic erosion, conversion. The gentle power of pathogenic erosion quickly poured into Jiang Heng's body, clearing the lesions in Jiang Heng's body little by little. Compared to the previous rapid cleaning of diseases, this time the cleaning speed of pathogenic erosion was slightly slower. Moreover, while pathogenic erosion was converting, he injected the remaining potion in the needle tube into the vein. The majestic power quickly fed back to Jiang Heng's body. The content of bioenergy in the blood began to skyrocket, and the strength of the cells throughout his body became stronger at an extremely fast speed. The strength of Jiang Heng's blood, which had just entered the silver blood realm, was directly transforming towards the direction of mercury blood. Correspondingly, the physical body level on the panel also began to jump rapidly. Physical body level, 4.33 right pointing arrow 4.34. Physical body level, 4.34 right pointing arrow 4.35. The whole process lasted for half a minute. When the virus solution in the needle tube was completely injected and the power of pathogenic erosion dissipated, the line of physical body level on the panel already had a significant change. Physical body level, 4.85. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.